Chapter 980. Crack, crack, crack. The surrounding walls directly cracked. Lu Chen's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Fuck, my arena. In the next second, Bailey Liusu, who was in the sword chi astral form state, was directly blasted out and fell to the ground. After falling to the ground, Bailey Liusu spat out a mouthful of blood. He wanted to stand up again, but his legs were weak and he couldn't stand up no matter what. Ignoring the serious injuries on his body, he widened his eyes and looked at Wu Xian in horror. This guy was too ridiculously strong. You are, a spirit you among spirit controllers. There was a branch of spirit controllers among spirit controllers. Spirit controllers controlled some spiritual bodies, and it was said that when a spirit controller cultivated to a certain extent, they could change to a more advanced profession, spirit controller. What they controlled was something more fundamental, special spiritual power. Wu Xian smiled slightly. At least you have some knowledge, but your brain isn't too good. I really don't know why you think you are qualified to touch our Divine Demon Arena rankings. On the side, Grey Crow shivered. What kind of monsters were these junior brothers and sisters? Even a spirit you appeared, and even the five-colored spiritual energy appeared. That Bailey Liusu couldn't even withstand a single move in front of a top disciple of the Divine Demon Arena. Too strong. Speaking of which, as the eldest senior brother, he was a little too scared. Wu Xian didn't even use soul body as one and easily killed Bailey Liusu. He snorted coldly and was about to turn and leave when someone suddenly shouted from below the arena. Wu Xian. Wu Xian frowned slightly. Who spoke so rudely? When he looked back, his momentum was immediately gone. Dean, why are you here? Lu Chen glared at Wu Xian and pointed at the broken wall of the arena. If you want to compete, then compete. Why did you destroy the arena? Do you know how expensive the arena materials are? Do you know how much it costs to fix it? Dean, I'm a little uncomfortable. Dean. Goodbye. Wu Xian ran away like a wisp of smoke. Lu Chen was so angry that his teeth itched. Nameless. Forget it. It's just a matter of spending more spirit stones. Our academy still has quite a lot of spirit stones, a sea of clouds said. We can't really let Wu Xian pay for it, right? Lu Chen sighed. He suddenly remembered that he had destroyed a lot of things in the past. At that time, it seemed that no one really wanted him to pay for them. However, he finally experienced the feeling of his heart bleeding. Forget it. Before Lu Chen could finish, a loud noise came from the third arena. The tower of the arena had been cut off. Fuck. Who is this? Lu Chen's face turned green. Changing another tower would cost a lot of money. Lu Chen and a sea of clouds hurried to Arena 3. The outer court disciples were still petrified when they saw Bailey Liusu, who was still lying on the ground, unable to move. This is too terrifying. Could it be that this is the strength of a top disciple of the demonic academy? What kind of joke is this? We've never seen a spirit user in our intermediate arena. He won, but he still got scolded by the dean. If this was our academy, the dean would be laughing. Is it so difficult to be a disciple of the demonic academy? He defeated Bailey Liusu in one move. If that Wu Xian came to our academy, who could touch him? After hurrying to Arena 3, Lu Chen found that the damage here was more serious than he imagined. The diamond basalt on the ground was torn apart. The protective rocks of the audience seats were cracked everywhere. Just now, Skyfall's sword aura had cut off the roof of a distant teaching pavilion. Damn it, this little ancestor. It's just an arena. Are they here to tear it down? Lu Chen really wanted to cry. Opposite Skyfall, Star Emperor was at a complete disadvantage. His eyes were filled with fear and shock. How could this guy who didn't even have a ranking be so strong? He could only take a beating in front of him. Star Emperor, weren't you quite arrogant a few days ago? Didn't you say that we gods and demons were all trash? Skyfall's lips curled up. He deliberately hit Star Emperor with his sword aura just now to teach him a lesson. Skyfall, what level are you? My level isn't high. I'm just one Star Emperor Shio. How can one Star Emperor Shio be so strong? Why can my intermediate 2-star Theo the Great's attack be weaker than yours? Star Emperor panted heavily and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I don't believe it. You're definitely not a newcomer. There can't be such a strong newcomer. Skyfall smiled. Level is just a number. The only thing that can be measured is the level of one's spiritual power. Our Dean is a 1-star great cultivator. Go and fight with him. What kind of monsters are you guys from the Demonic Academy? Skyfall snorted coldly. Yo, now you're calling us monsters. Didn't you call us trash before? Star Emperor, remember this. You can't touch the gods and demons ranking. Boom. A sword aura shot toward Star Emperor. Star Emperor tried his best to dodge, but Skyfall's sword aura suddenly disappeared and smashed down on his head. Damn it. He calculated the position so accurately. Star Emperor tried his best to resist, but when the sword aura was about to hit him, it suddenly deviated a little and fell beside him. The ground cracked. Hey, Yi Fan isn't done yet. I'll play with you a little longer. At this moment, an angry voice burst out from below the stage. Skyfall, end the battle right now. If your next attack deviates, I'll teach you a lesson. Skyfall snorted coldly. Who's so arrogant? Skyfall turned around and saw Lu Chen with a ferocious expression due to anger. He was instantly stunned. Dean, aren't you resting? This stage. Before Lu Chen could speak, Skyfall suddenly activated his 4 strongest skills. Star Emperor, you're really strong. You can actually split open this adamantine basalt. You even caused me to fail several times. You're really on par with me. Star Emperor was dumbfounded. On par with him? Anyone with eyes could see that Skyfall was simply playing around. If there was a crack in this place that was caused by him, he would have accepted it. But it clearly had nothing to do with him, yet that Skyfall still wanted to push the blame to him. Lu Chen's face darkened. Skyfall's acting skills were comparable to his. A sea of clouds patted Lu Chen's shoulder. Nameless. He's a genius. His brain is flexible. Forget it, poor Star Emperor. He couldn't win in the first place, and now he has to take the blame. Lu Chen suddenly thought of something. Old C, you go to stage 4. I'll go to stage 2. Hurry up and warn these brats. Whoever destroys the stage will be severely punished. Okay. Stage 2 wasn't damaged. At this moment, Yi Fan was standing opposite Ronger. Ronger's several rounds of attacks didn't hurt Yi Fan at all. Yi Fan put his hands behind his back and looked indifferently at Ronger, who was panting. You bully me. Ronger flew into a rage out of humiliation. Yi Fan frowned. When did he bully her? He didn't even make a move. Senior Sister Ronger, I just didn't want to hurt you. I didn't mean to bully you. Ronger was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. Then why didn't you come out at the beginning? Why did you only come out now? You've all agreed to humiliate us. Yi Fan frowned slightly. Senior Sister Ronger, you misunderstood. It's like this. Because I was short on money and senior brother came to ask me for money every day, I agreed to participate in the arena in half a month to earn some spirit stones to repay my debt. As for Wuxia, Skyfall, and the other junior brothers and sisters, I think they looked down on the strength of the disciples from the other academies. You still say you didn't bully me. You people from the Fiend God School are all crazy. You look down on us from the bottom of your heart. Yi Fan thought carefully and said sincerely, I didn't, but the others. Anyway, senior sister Ronger, you're still far from being able to slaughter the Fiend God ranking list. You still say you didn't look down on us. Don't be arrogant. In the stands, Lu Chen shook his head. Yi Fan, this silly boy, how could he be so honest? He wouldn't be able to find a girlfriend like this. Chapter 981. Ronger still refused to admit defeat, so Yi Fan had no choice but to attack. Profound Beauty Divine Transformation, Demon Wind Ghost Shadow. Holy Buddha Ascetic Buddha Seal, 6 Paths of Reincarnation. Yi Fan first used his movement technique to quickly suppress Ronger's movements, and then 6 giant Buddha seals blasted towards Ronger from 6 different directions. Ronger hurriedly dodged with her movement technique, but after the 6 palm seals were dodged, they quickly attacked from another direction, as if there were 6 invisible teleportation gates in 6 different directions, causing the palm seals to grow and multiply, endlessly reincarnating. 6 Paths of Reincarnation. Once this move is used, won't it be endless? The Buddha seals are accompanied by a fierce true fire attack, stirring up the surrounding spiritual energy and affecting movement techniques. How can I break this move? Senior brother Yi Fan is so strong. It seems that if I want to defeat him, I'll need to work harder. Ronger had already consumed a lot of energy before, and now facing the 6 Paths of Reincarnation, after holding on for a moment, her movements finally slowed down. In a fight between masters, this moment of carelessness would have disastrous consequences. Seeing the 6 palm seals blasting towards her, Ronger still wanted to dodge, but the surrounding spiritual energy force field was severely distorted, and her plucking flower swift shadow was actually ineffective. Not good, Ronger is in danger. Kai Yen cried out in alarm. At this time, the 6 palm seals suddenly dissipated when they were dozens of centimeters away from Ronger. Yi Fan looked at Ronger indifferently, Senior sister Ronger, you've already lost. Kai Yen finally let out a sigh of relief, but at the same time, she was even more shocked by Yi Fan's strength. How is it possible to control and release spiritual energy at such a whimsical level? Even an old disciple who has been here for decades can't do this. This Yi Fan is ridiculously strong. Ronger's eyes were filled with tears. She didn't expect the gap between her and Yi Fan to be so great. They were both newcomers, and she had never been defeated so easily before. Ronger. Kai Yen stood up. She knew her disciple best. She was stubborn, but the disparity in strength between the two sides was too great. Let's go. Ronger glared at Yi Fan, just you wait, I will defeat you sooner or later. Not long after, the battles in the 3rd and 4th arenas had ended. The 4 members of the Demonic Academy had each taken the top 4 spots on the Demonic and Celestial rankings. Yi Fan, Wu Xian, Skyfall, and Han Chen did not use Soul Body as one in their battles. Other than Skyfall, who was a little slow, the rest of them did not last more than 3 minutes. As soon as these 4 matches ended, the 5th to 8th matches began. The unknown disciples of the Demonic Academy made their moves one after another. The Outer Yard disciples who had dominated the rankings were instantly defeated. What the hell is going on? Where did so many powerful people come from in the Demonic Academy? Those people are too strong. If they were in our academy, they would be able to dominate the rankings for a long time. Could this be the true strength of the Celestial Demon list? Kai Yen frowned as she looked at the outer court disciples who were rapidly disappearing from the rankings. At first it was only the top 4, then the top 10, then the top 20, the top 30, the top 40. They were all God-fiend disciples. These people, who were originally rare to see, were immediately cleared out the moment they made their moves. After a long silence, Kai Yen could not care less about her status. She could not help but say angrily, what kind of monstrous disciples are these? This is the God-fiend academy again. The outer yard disciples, who were arrogant and domineering before, did not dare to speak loudly at this moment. There were too many freaks around. Any one of them had unfathomable strength. In just one day, the first few pages of the celestial demon list seemed to have changed. Not to mention the outer yard disciples, even the original top 50 had all changed. Too much, too much. What are those people doing? That is to say, the rankings that we dominated previously don't count at all in the demonic academy. This ranking now is the true strength of the demonic academy. At this moment, a God-fiend disciple could no longer bear to listen. You're talking about the current ranking? Don't joke around. The current ranking is only temporary. There are still many experts among the outer yard disciples. We have to wait for them to return. Ah. This ranking was only temporary. Fuck, the waters of the God-fiend academy are too deep. I kind of want to go back to the academy. On the other side, Lu Chen handed over a few academy disciples who had damaged public property to the office and was reprimanding them. Skyfall, Wuxia, and the others were among them. They had originally planned to clear out the outer yard disciples so that they could have a good fight, but their plan was completely ruined by the Dean. Dean, we know we were wrong. Next time, be more careful. Skyfall lowered his head and said softly, don't make us pay for it. It's very expensive. You also know it's expensive. Especially you, Skyfall. Did the teaching pavilion offend you? But Star Emperor is very strong. Strong my ass. If you try to play tricks with me again, you're not allowed to go to the arena for a year. Don't, I was wrong. Dean, I really know I was wrong, and you, Wuxia. I've checked the walls. They'll probably have to be torn down and rebuilt. Brat, do you have to use that trick? What if you hurt the other disciples? Dean, didn't you just say that Skyfall was wasting time? I just wanted to finish the battle as soon as possible. Dean, you can punish us however you want. Please let us go. I have an appointment with Yi Fan to fight. I'm afraid someone else will challenge him now. Don't mention this to me. I don't want you to pay for the spirit stones, but you can't go without punishment. Lu Chen said fiercely, the cliff of reflection has already been opened. Skyfall and Wuxia, you two go to the cliff of reflection to reflect on your mistakes for a week. The others, line up first. Currently, it can only accommodate 2 people. Ah. The group of people sighed. After sending away these troublesome fellows, Lu Chen shook his head and sat down. A sea of clouds personally poured a cup of tea and placed it on the table. Nameless, calm down. Lu Chen sighed. I'm not really angry at them. Otherwise, they'd at least give me a year to reflect on my mistakes. I just want the others to take note of it. It's also troublesome to have too many genius students. A sea of clouds didn't know what to say. He had never heard of a dean having a headache because the students were too powerful. Nameless, how long will it take for the main spirit vein to open? Lu Chen looked at the panel. The main spirit vein needs 1,000 disciples to open. Right now, we have less than 500 students. However, during this period of time, our recruitment speed seems to have slowed down a bit. There are only a dozen students a day. A sea of clouds said, that's for sure. After all, it's not easy to find geniuses unless we leave Xingyuan continent. Otherwise, if we don't lower the requirements, it might be more troublesome to recruit later. Lu Chen shook his head. It's still too early to leave Xingyuan continent. We haven't even entered the rankings. Let's recruit students in Xingyuan continent first. Let the students go out as much as possible and increase our fame. Oh right, how are the results of the teams outside? This. On Fenlai's side, Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan entered the top 10 of the intermediate arena. As for the primary arena, we took up 5 of the top 10 spots. If you didn't leave 5 spots open, that group of brats would have slaughtered the leaderboards. Lu Chen asked curiously, what the hell is the intermediate arena? That's a place where only disciples of 10 years and above can enter. The two of them. The two of them dominated the leaderboards for several days, showing off their prowess outside the arena every day. Fanlai's disciples really couldn't shake them. Then, Fanlai's side had no choice but to invite the two of them to the intermediate arena. Chapter 982. After a period of silence, the divine demon disciples finally began to show their might. On the competition rankings of the 4 exchange academies, the divine demon disciples occupied at least 5 of the top 10 spots. As for Zichen, Tyrant, and Donglin Sacred Court, most of the top 10 spots were occupied by the divine demon disciples. The disciples they sent out were ranked in the top 20 at the very least. One had to know that in the elementary arenas of the other academies, there was no lack of senior disciples who had studied for several years. However, the Divine Devil Academy disciples were like a hot knife through butter. No one could stop them. The next day, the outer court disciples no longer had anything to do in the Divine Demon arena. Almost all the Divine Demon disciples were fighting for the top 10 spots. Huilan sat in the spectator stands. She still hadn't recovered from the shock. The experts of the 8 academies had been massacred by the Demonic Academy. Not a single one was left. Is this still the arena where we dominated the rankings? Kai Yen shook her head. I didn't expect there to be so many hidden experts among the Demonic Academy disciples. Li Wei told us not to touch the top 3 on the Divine Demon list. She really had foresight. At this moment, the intensity of any match between the Divine Demon disciples far exceeded the expectations of these challengers. Is this really a fight for the top 20 spots? This strength is at least in the top 3 in our Donglin. What kind of joke is this? Where did these monsters come from? I heard that Senior Yen Su only lasted 6 minutes in the testing space. Senior Yen Su is ranked 5th in our arena, and he's an old man who has studied for several years. Among the Divine Demon disciples, there are many who can last 7 or 8 minutes in the testing space. It's really terrifying. This is really the standard of the elementary arenas. The instructor beside the student shook his head. It depends on who owns the elementary arenas. In my opinion, the strength of the Demonic Academy's elementary arenas is comparable to that of Immortal Academies. After a few days of competition, Yi Fan currently occupied the top spot. Many people had challenged him, but Yi Fan proved with his strength that his title as the strongest disciple of the Divine Demon Academy wasn't just for show. Of course, another reason was that Wuxia and Skyfall, the 2 most promising experts to challenge Yi Fan, had been locked up at the Cliff of Reflection by Lu Chen, Cliff of Reflection. These 2 fellow sufferers were reflecting on their mistakes. Junior brother Skyfall, listen to the sound of this stone wall. It seems different from other places. Wu Xian knocked on the stone wall in front of him. From the sound of it, it seemed to be hollow inside. Is there a secret room here? Skyfall hurriedly came over. Senior brother, can you use your 5-colored spirit chi to seal off the sound here? I'll think of a way to break out of here. No problem. Try to make as little noise as possible. Otherwise, if we damage the Cliff of Reflection, the principal might kill us, alright. Wu Xian brought out 5-colored spiritual energy. Heavenly Meteor broke open the wall with one strike, but it did not make much of a commotion. Behind the wall, there was indeed a dark passageway. It was unknown where it led to. The 2 of them looked at each other and walked in at the same time. With the astonishing performance of the Demonic Academy's disciples in the outer courtyard, the reputation of the Demonic Academy in the Holy Academy continent had become more and more resounding. Tianjiang Sacred Academy. The disciples we sent can only be ranked 39th. The strength of the Demonic Academy is too terrifying. When Li Wei recommended the Demonic Academy, I was still a little hesitant. But now, it seems that we have underestimated the potential of those genius disciples. Contact Nameless immediately. Tianjiang is willing to have an exchange with the Demonic Academy. However, the first batch should not exceed 5 people. As long as the number of people was lowered, the competition ranking could be preserved. Imperial Sacred Academy, Principal's Conference Hall. It said that the Demonic Academy's level is comparable to Immortal Academies. If we can exchange with their academy, it will be of great help to the development of the students. And that's indeed the case. Whether it's the previous academy or the Demonic Academy's disciples, it will be beneficial for our disciples to improve their strength. A white-bearded elder nodded slightly. Principal, I'm just afraid that if they come, our ranking won't be preserved. That's not a big deal. It's just like Immortal Academy is willing to exchange with us. How can you not be happy? It's not just 1 or 2 academies that have been slaughtered, so we have nothing to worry about. Besides, the beginner's arena doesn't cost much resources. I see that the Purple Sky Palace hasn't made any moves recently. Let's also make a trip to the Demonic Academy. A Sea of Clouds. Tian was extremely busy recently. More and more academies sent in applications for the exchange. At the same time, some teachers also hoped to come to the Demonic Academy to teach. This matter couldn't be delayed. Now that the number of Demonic Academy's disciples had exceeded 500, and the teachers had to lead the team out, there was a shortage of manpower. A Sea of Clouds. Has the recruitment situation improved? Tian asked while looking at the information. And, there was a period of sluggishness a while ago, but it seems to be getting better now. They have already recruited 17 disciples this morning. When they return tonight, I estimate that there will be 30 to 40 people. Tian smiled. I didn't expect the Demonic Academy to develop so quickly. Our academy is finally on the right track. What about Nameless? What has he been busy with recently? Tian suddenly thought of Nameless. He didn't know what that guy was doing all day. He's busy with the seal and designing the academy's fashion. Oh, the most important thing is that when the number of students reaches 800, the Seoul Martial Hall will be opened. He's now worried about this. Seoul Martial Hall. He's going to the Zhongxian-gu to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall. At that time, we didn't expect the scale of the Demonic Academy to develop so quickly. We forgot to remind him to be prepared. A Sea of Clouds nodded. We thought that we could take a breather a while ago. Who knew that the recruitment speed would increase again? There are so many geniuses. Don't just leave them there. The Dean will personally challenge the Seoul Martial Hall, which is directly linked to the Dean's reputation. Nameless is very strong, but his physical strength can't keep up with the intensity of the Seoul Martial Hall. Tian thought for a moment, then suddenly stood up and left in a hurry. A Sea of Clouds, you look after this place first. I'll go find Nameless. When Tian found Lu Chen was looking for information related to the Seoul Martial Hall. The Seoul Martial Hall was one of the most important ways for the various academies to obtain and expand their treasury. The Dean had to personally participate. The Seoul Martial Hall was located in the Zhongxian-gu. There were a total of 9 halls, and each hall had a treasury. The deeper one went into the Seoul Martial Hall, the better the treasures one would find, and the more treasures there were. Equipment, skills, pellets, recipes, and puppets could be found there. One could even find baby battle pets with physical bodies. The treasury had 2 floors. The treasures found on the first floor would be distributed to the academies and stored in the treasury, sutra, and sword pavilions. The treasures would be used to exchange for the treasures in the future. The second floor was for the participants. Generally speaking, the participants wouldn't receive many rewards, probably 1 or 2. Of course, the treasures wouldn't necessarily be rare, but they would definitely be attractive to the powerful ones. In addition, the participants would also receive a certain amount of reputation points, which could be used to improve their own reputation. The chance to challenge the Soul Martial Hall was very precious in every academy. The first time the Soul Martial Hall was opened, the participants would only have one chance. After that, they would only have one chance every 10 years. Nameless. Yi Tian went to Lu Chen. Old E, you're just in time. I'm studying this Soul Martial Hall. According to the information I read, there is no rest in the middle of the Soul Martial Hall. I don't know how many halls I can reach with my physical strength. I know. That's why I'm here. Yi Tian seemed to be in a hurry. Do you remember that I told you last time that there are some strong bodies in the Jiutian? Lu Chen looked at Yi Tian in surprise. If we can get a good treasure, it will be a big deal for us. Those geniuses won't care about the average treasures. Therefore, you have to go through at least 4 halls. Lu Chen frowned. Old E, what are you trying to say? I can't do anything about your weak body, but I know how to reattach your left arm. Yi Tian said with determination. Chapter 983. Lu Chen couldn't remain calm. His arm had been broken for a long time, and now there was finally a chance to reattach it. I don't know about other places, but there's one place where you can use your physical body. Yi Tian said. Nameless. The academy I used to study in was close to the west of the Shengyuan continent and the Immortal Master Tomb, so I know some rumors about the Immortal Master Tomb. In the 6th heaven, after the cultivation slows down, if the cultivators can't break through, they will face the end of their lives. Almost all the powerhouses who have no hope of breaking through will go to the Immortal Master Tomb to fend for themselves. At this point, Yi Tian looked a little lonely. Immortal Master Tomb, isn't that where I'll go in the future? This expression flashed across Yi Tian's face, and he continued, the deeper you go into the Immortal Master Tomb, the stronger the powerhouses buried there. Over the years, after the powerhouses die, their spiritual chi won't disperse immediately, so countless demons and treasures are born here. Lu Chen listened very carefully. After all, this was related to his arm. At the same time, before the powerhouses die, they will naturally leave almost all their treasures to their clansmen or friends, but they will keep their weapons for themselves. After all, those weapons are their comrades who have accompanied them throughout their lives. Moreover, for high-grade weapons, even if they don't form a weapon spirit, they will have the same spiritual chi as their master. If the weapon doesn't recognize its master, it will be very difficult for others to continue using it. Those weapons are gathered there. It is said that in the depths of the Immortal Master Tomb, there is a sword tomb. Countless broken swords and weapons are guarding their master's corpse. In short, the Immortal Master Tomb is mysterious and unfathomable. In the ancient books of the Sacred Academy I studied in, it was mentioned that in the Immortal Master Tomb, a mysterious demonic creature was born for 10,000 years. It is called the emptiness of gods and demons. This creature is neither a battle pet nor an inanimate object. It is more like a spirit born from the spiritual chi of the powerhouses and the demonic creatures. The emptiness of gods and demons. When Lu Chen heard these 4 words, his expression suddenly tensed up. God-fiend Taishu. Could it be related to the God-fiend suit? Of course, I don't know how the emptiness of gods and demons came to be. Was it really nurtured by the Immortal Master Tomb, or was it formed after some kind of spiritual object entered the tomb? However, the spiritual energy of experts, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and the spiritual energy of demons has been nurtured for tens of thousands of years. One can only imagine how powerful the emptiness of gods and demons is. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Old E, a spirit creature that has been nurtured for 10,000 years. I'm afraid I might not be able to deal with it at the moment. Yi Tian hurriedly said, don't worry, listen to me first. Decades ago, I was still unwilling to accept that I could not make a breakthrough. After I learned about the emptiness of gods and demons, I carried a glimmer of hope and searched everywhere for ancient books about the emptiness of gods and demons. I tracked down the records about the emptiness of gods and demons. Finally, my hard work paid off. I finally found a secret about the emptiness of gods and demons in some rare ancient books. What secret? Logically speaking, the emptiness of gods and demons should be incomparably powerful. However, I feel that the emptiness of gods and demons itself does not have much combat power. Once, an expert encountered the emptiness of gods and demons and wanted to subdue it. He chased it all the way. Just as he was about to succeed, the emptiness of gods and demons suddenly attached itself to the left shoulder of a corpse king and became its left arm. In that battle, the expert was seriously injured and could not recover from that setback. However, after the corpse king used its left arm, it exploded and died. The emptiness of gods and demons also disappeared without a trace. Lu Chen's eyebrows were almost knitted together. Oldie, do you think I've lived too long? If I explode and die after using it, isn't that the same as installing a time bomb for myself? No. Exploding and dying might be the result of the corpse king's spirit chi not being able to connect it to the corpse king and forcefully activating it. If there's a way to fuse it with the emptiness of gods and demons, then the power of this left arm is unimaginable. Lu Chen fell into deep thought. Speaking of which, he had originally planned to wait for Little Green to break through to become an immortal pharmacist before refining the elixir to regenerate his body and restore his left arm. However, the legend of the emptiness of gods and demons had really shaken him. It was not that the emptiness of gods and demons was very strong, but this guy was called the emptiness of gods and demons. Could it be a part of the divine set? If it was, then no matter what, he had to go and take a look. Moreover, even if Little Green broke through now and he could immediately regrow his left arm, the emptiness of gods would still not be improved. With the emptiness of gods, there was no way to increase his attributes. His physical strength originally had a huge advantage over other humans. The upper limit of his physical attributes could reach 15 times that of his spirit chi, but that was only reflected in the upper limit. If he could not increase his attributes, then what was the use of having a higher upper limit? Could the emptiness of gods and demons change this state? Oldie, why are you so sure that the emptiness of gods and demons is definitely in the immortal master tomb? Lu Chen suddenly asked. After all, those are all scattered clues you found in ancient books. Yi Tian was silent for a long time when he was asked this question. That powerhouse who can't recover from a setback is you. Yi Tian looked at Lu Chen and sighed deeply. Then, he unbuttoned his clothes. Yi Tian's chest muscles were severely distorted, and there was indeed a large circle below his right rib. Lu Chen's eyes widened. He did not know that Yi Tian's body actually had such a terrible injury. Nameless, I did not trust you at first, because I know what physical injuries mean to an immortal cultivator. Yi Tian said, when I first came to the sixth heaven, I was also high-spirited and wanted to show off my skills. My cultivation level indeed increased very quickly. However, when I reached the 9 stars of Theo the Great and broke through to the human king realm, my physical body actually could not bear the strengthening brought about by the breakthrough. Not only did I not enter the human king realm, but my realm directly fell to the great emperor of 8 stars. The weakness of the human race's physical strength is more obvious the higher the level, the more obvious it is. After that, I searched everywhere for ways to strengthen my physical body, until I found out about the emptiness of gods and demons. Yi Tian closed his clothes. However, you also know about that battle. After that, my realm fell to Theo the Great's 7 stars, and my combat ability plummeted. So, I became a mentor. Lu Chen widened his eyes. It turned out that Yi Tian had such an unknown past. It was no wonder that his teaching level was so high. He was originally a super expert who was about to break through to the human king realm. His vision was far beyond ordinary mentors. Nameless, you are the person with the most potential I have ever seen, but your path is harder than others. When I look at you, I see my past self. I don't want you to follow in my footsteps. Only above the human king realm can one become an immortal. If you want to step into the human king realm, your body is absolutely impossible. Even if it is not to go to the Soul Martial Hall, you have to improve your condition as soon as possible. Although Little Green's aptitude is extraordinary, breaking through to the immortal medicine master realm not only requires aptitude, but also opportunity. That is something that can be encountered but not sought. Tell me, do you want to wait for such an illusory thing, or do you want to find a way to improve your physical body? Lu Chen suddenly felt a little sad. The Etion in front of him used to be like his name, all-powerful. However, the hero had already fallen. He had placed all his hopes on himself. Chapter 984. After Etion finished speaking, he took out an 8 trigrams mirror and handed it to Lu Chen. I was once unwilling to accept failure. After many years, I collected treasures and finally found this pure yang 8 trigrams mirror. The emptiness of gods and demons needs to rely on other creatures to unleash its power. Therefore, no matter how strong it is, it needs to borrow the power of demons to unleash its power. This pure yang 8 trigrams mirror is extremely effective against the demons in the immortal corpse mound. If you can find the emptiness of gods and demons, it will have a miraculous effect. Lu Chen frowned. Etion, this is something that you have been searching for your entire life. I cannot accept it. Etion laughed self-deprecatingly. Searching for my entire life? When I met the emptiness of gods and demons, I did not have the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror. When I had the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror, I could not find the emptiness of gods and demons. It has been dozens of years. Now, even if I had the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror, if I met the emptiness of gods and demons again, I am afraid that even if I wanted to, I would be powerless. Forget it. I have already seen through it. In the end, the emptiness of gods and demons and I are not fated to be together. Lu Chen could also understand Etion's sorrow. However, Etion suddenly raised his head. The heavens have allowed me to meet you. A young man who refuses to admit defeat, dragging his frail body, yet doing things that even I dare not imagine. Nameless, promise me that you will subdue the emptiness of gods and demons and help me fulfill my lifelong wish. Lu Chen's expression was solemn. The atmosphere was a little too heavy. Etion smiled and said, actually, I am also looking forward to seeing you. If you can cure your weakness and reattach your arm. Then, when you are in your best condition, no one can stop you. Lu Chen smiled. I want to know too. Etion laughed heartily and hugged Lu Chen's shoulders. Good, Nameless, I didn't misjudge you. Keep the 8 trigrams mirror well. You'll set off in 2 days. As for the matters in the academy. Since you're just a hands-off boss, we'll help you keep an eye on it. Right at this moment, the door was pushed open with a loud bang. A sea of clouds stood at the door and looked at Lu Chen and Etion, whose clothes were disheveled. What are you guys doing? Etion hurriedly buttoned up his shirt. Nothing. A sea of clouds. Why are you here? Why didn't you knock before coming in? I knocked, but you didn't hear it. Forget it, Nameless, something's wrong. Ah. What happened? Wu Xian and Skyfall found a secret passage at the Cliff of Reflection. The two of them seemed to have gone in. I went in to take a look. The end of the secret passage seemed to be another space, so I didn't dare to go in rashly. Lu Chen almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Was this what a genius was like? He could find a secret passage when he was in solitary confinement. How did the sect leaders of those sects survive? Old C, you didn't know there was a secret passage there before? Lu Chen asked. I didn't know. Before. I was 90% sure that there wasn't a secret passage, but it's hard to say. Who would be so restless at the cliff of reflection, looking for a secret passage everywhere? Lu Chen frowned. The Academy of Intentionless has a long history. If there really was a secret passage, it's impossible that no one found it. I'm afraid this secret passage is newly formed. Lu Chen nodded. If it's newly formed, then this matter is very complicated. It might be related to the thing in the main spirit vein. Or it might be related to Zhongxian Gu. The one who sealed the Academy of Intentionless was Zhongxian Gu, and the one who could dig the secret passage during the seal could also be Zhongxian Gu. Yi Tian tidied up his clothes and said, if it's Zhongxian Gu, then this matter is very important. We can't let them know that we found the secret passage. A sea of clouds. Who else knows about this? No one else. Only Yi Fan and I know. Lu Chen frowned. Why is Yi Fan delivering food again? He's making money, alright. Yi Fan, this guy, was really willing to suffer for the sake of making money. Yi Tian looked at Lu Chen's worried face, thought for a moment, and said, Nameless, the matter of the immortal corpse mound cannot be delayed. As for the secret passage, firstly, Wuxia and Skyfall, those two kids, are quite strong. Secondly, even if you want to look for it, you can't do it. No one knows what's in the secret passage. If you go in, it'll cause too much of a commotion. Even if you go in secretly, if there's a delay, when the Soul Martial Hall opens and Zhongxian Gu doesn't see you, they'll definitely be suspicious. Nameless wants to go to the immortal corpse mound. A sea of clouds was surprised. Yi Tian, did you just tell Nameless about the emptiness of gods and demons? As Yi Tian's close friend, a sea of clouds also knew about this matter. Yeah. Yi Tian didn't hide it. If that's the case, then we really can't delay it. The miasma and poisonous fog in the immortal corpse mound is thinner during this period of time, and the Soul Martial Hall is about to open. Lu Chen nodded. This was exactly what he was worried about. He was about to go to the immortal corpse mound, and now this had happened at home. The mentor's strength had been greatly reduced, and Lu Chen was worried about them going in. But we can't just leave them be. What if they encounter danger inside? Lu Chen frowned. A sea of clouds thought for a moment and said. He looked at Yi Tian, and the two seemed to have reached a tacit understanding. Nameless, there's someone who can help us. Who? Li Wei. Li Wei. Yes. A sea of clouds said, Li Wei is a member of the Fox clan, and they are very good at protecting themselves. Moreover, Li Wei's age and strength are a mystery, but I guess that she might already be in the human king realm. Lu Chen didn't expect Li Wei to be so strong. Well, the Fox clan had a long lifespan, and she might have lived for hundreds of years. However, Lu Chen thought about it again. Why would she help us? I don't know if she'll help, but Feng Lai is one of the few people who aren't afraid of the Purple Sky Palace. In that case, they probably aren't afraid of Zhongxian Gu either. Nameless, Li Wei will probably come to Divine Demon in 2 days. She should be looking for you to discuss the exchange of disciples. Xiao Zhan and Chu Tian are too noisy in Feng Lai. After they found out that Feng Lai had slaughtered the people on the leaderboard, they vented their anger in the Feng Lai arena. Lu Chen thought for a moment. Now, he could only look for outside help. The next morning, Li Wei came to the Demonic Academy. Looking at the Divine Demon gang, Li Wei shook her head helplessly and said to Kai Yan, I told you not to touch the top 3 of their leaderboard. Do you believe me now? Kai Yan lowered her head and didn't dare to speak. Her family's arena had been massacred, and as the leading instructor, she couldn't escape the blame. Forget it. I'll go talk to Nameless and ask him to call those 2 fiends back quickly. Li Wei shook her head and went to Nameless' residence. When she arrived at Nameless' study, Li Wei went straight to the point and expressed her intentions. Li Wei smiled. You and I don't need to always call each other Dean. I'm really ashamed. If Rong hadn't offended him first, I think Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan wouldn't be full of resentment. Actually, it's understandable. Young people are all outstanding talents. Who doesn't have a bit of arrogance in their hearts? Lu Chen said. Senior Li Wei, you don't need to mind. Back then, Feng Lai was the first to be willing to communicate with the Divine Demon Gang. I haven't forgotten this point. I'll ask Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan to withdraw from the leaderboard and return to the academy immediately. Senior. Li Wei covered her mouth and smiled, but didn't say anything. She just smiled and said, thank you. It seemed that calling him senior wasn't appropriate. Li Wei got up and was about to leave and Lu Chen suddenly called out to her. That, Li Wei. Miss, N. Li Wei turned her head. Her long hair fluttered, and her clear eyes looked strangely at Lu Chen. Is there something else? Lu Chen was a bit embarrassed. Cough, cough. Can you do me a favor? Li Wei's smile became even brighter. She turned around and looked at Lu Chen with her big eyes, as if she was very interested in Lu Chen's words. You, want my help? Chapter 985. Lu Chen told Li Wei about the secret passage at the Demonic Academy's Cliff of Reflection. After hearing this, Li Wei frowned. She vaguely sensed that this matter would have a great impact on the Demonic Academy. Miss Li Wei, if you're willing to help me find Wuxia and Skyfall, the Demonic Academy will owe you a favor. I'll definitely repay you in the future, Lu Chen said. Li Wei sized up Lu Chen again. I don't want the Demonic Academy's favor. Lu Chen looked at Li Wei and sighed. Sure enough, she had no reason to help the demon god. I want yours. Li Wei raised her chin slightly. That beautiful face was perfectly presented in front of Lu Chen. This matter is a private agreement between us. I don't represent Feng Lai, I only represent myself. I promise you to find your 2 disciples, but, you, Nameless, owe me a favor. Lu Chen had to re-examine this woman. Under her beautiful appearance, was this woman also ambitious? What do you want me to do? Lu Chen asked. Li Wei smiled slyly. When I need you one day, you'll naturally know. But you don't have to be too nervous. I won't ask for too much. If you insist on not agreeing, I won't force you. Doesn't that mean I promised you for nothing? That won't be the case. I can change my request. With that, Li Wei turned her head mischievously. Okay, let someone take me to the secret passage. But Nameless, you have to remember that you owe me a favor. Lu Chen suddenly felt like he had been tricked. Dealing with women was really troublesome. If it was a man, everyone would directly state their request. That would save him a lot of trouble. However, since Li Wei agreed, Lu Chen couldn't find a better way. I'll let Old Hai take you there. Miss Li Wei, I'll leave Wu Xian and Skyfall to you. As long as they are still alive, I will definitely bring them out alive. That afternoon, Lu Chen bade farewell to a sea of clouds and Yi Tian before leaving the Demonic Academy and heading towards the Immortal Corpse Mound on the western side of Xingyuan continent. Along the way, Lu Chen tried his best to use the shuttle as a means of transportation. However, due to his physical exhaustion, he still had to walk. They arrived at the Immortal Corpse Mound late at night on the 4th day. There was a thick fog in the area ahead, and there were some traces left by the big hunting match in the surrounding foothills. A month ago, there was also a big hunting match here. However, this place was now empty. Even though the college had issued a mission to enter the Immortal Corpse Mound, no one would enter at this time. Lu Chen set up camp at the foot of the mountain. He would enter the Immortal Corpse Mound the next morning after recovering his strength. Boss, the apprentice said that there is an extremely rare spirit herb in the Immortal Corpse Mound called the Yellow Spring Heavenly Dew Grass. If you see it on the way, can you think of a way to get it? Lu Yi lowered her head and said while busying herself. That, if you don't see it, then forget it. Lu Chen saw that Lu Yi's expression was a bit strange. If it was in the past, she would not hesitate to ask Lu Chen to bring her to collect spirit herbs. Why did she have a feeling that she wanted to say something but was hesitating? Little Green, what is this yellow spring heavenly dew grass used for? Lu Yi lowered her head and said after a while, the yellow spring heavenly dew grass can help me and Xiao Min reconstruct our bodies. Ah. Lu Chen was shocked. Did this mean that Little Green and Xiao Min did not need to exist in the form of ghost pets? Little Green, why didn't you say such an important thing earlier? Lu Yi whispered, Boss, this time you came to find the emptiness of gods and demons. I was afraid of dragging you down. Moreover, the yellow spring heavenly dew grass is only one of the herbs. Xiao Min and I need other things to reconstruct our bodies. Moreover, I don't know if this herb is here, so I didn't know how to ask. Fool, your matters are equally important. Lu Chen smiled and said, Don't worry, as long as I see this herb, I will definitely get it. Even if it isn't here, I will think of a way. As for the other materials, tell me as well. Little Green and Xiao Min had followed him for many years. Although Xiao Min could barely help Lu Chen now, Lu Chen already saw them as family. The other materials are not all herbs, there are other conditions. It is very difficult to reconstruct a body. We don't dare to have too much hope. If there is hope, then let's fight for it. Boss, let's talk about it later. Anyway, we haven't met the other conditions yet. You should rest first. Tomorrow, we still have to focus on dealing with the emptiness of gods and demons. Lu Chen saw that Little Green wasn't willing to say, so he didn't force him. Anyway, he wanted to see if there was any yellow spring heavenly dew grass in the immortal corpse mound. That night, the immortal corpse mound kept emitting ghostly howls that made one's hair stand on end. This immortal corpse mound had buried countless experts and bred unknown demons and ghosts. It was much scarier than the netherworld prison. Lu Chen remembered that his sister was very timid in the past and was most afraid of these strange sounds. If that girl was here, she probably wouldn't even dare to enter. Sigh, only 1,500 people can open the teleportation gate. Then, I can go home and see Lu Yi. Lu Chen suddenly remembered that he was still an earthling and couldn't help but find it funny. It's just a game. Why did I stay online for so many years? Of course, this was just a joke. After all, the current Jiutian was no longer a simple game. The next day, the sky was slightly bright. Not far away, a cold sun hung in the sky. The fog in the immortal corpse mound was slightly thinner. Lu Chen packed up his things and summoned Rhubarb and Little Green. Rhubarb, can you find the emptiness of gods and demons? Tai Huang wagged his tail and barked a few times. As long as it appears, you can find it. Good, I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Let's go. There was no vegetation on the ground of the immortal corpse mound. The surrounding trees had sparse branches and leaves, and the black soil on the ground was soft when stepped on. The immortal corpse mound was different from the netherworld prison. The immortal corpse mound only had 5 regions. The outermost 4 layers and the inner layer 1. The outermost 4 layers were filled with demons that weren't too strong, but the inner layer 1 wasn't because there was only 1 layer. The inner layer was guarded by the legendary sword mound. It was said that the inner layer was very wide, bigger than the outermost 4 layers combined. The sword mound surrounded the inner layer of the immortal corpse mound, guarding the remains of their former owners. As long as one approached the sword mound, regardless of whether they were cultivators or demons, the weapons inside would attack them indiscriminately. Therefore, no one had drawn a map of the inner layer. There were some shallow footsteps on the ground, probably left by some cultivators. It was unknown if they were left by the big hunting competition. Oldie said that the demons in the immortal corpse mound came from underground. I'd better follow these footsteps. Rhubarb, don't go too far from me. Lu Chen moved forward carefully. After walking for some time, a dense cemetery appeared in front of him. There were many tombstones here, but the tombstones were all in a mess. Before entering the cemetery, Lu Chen saw a tombstone outside the cemetery that was obviously bigger than the average tombstone. It stood there upright. Above the human king is immortality. The path to immortality is vast. How many people can cross it? The path to immortality will eventually return to the earth. In the next life, step on the 9 heavens again. Those below the human king realm are buried here. Chapter 986. The soil in the graveyard was more solid, and some plants grew on the ground. The footsteps from before disappeared here. The area in front was already covered by the graveyard. Lu Chen looked up. The vast graveyard was filled with countless tombstones. Some tombstones even had tombstones, while others only had a shabby weapon stuck in them. This graveyard was endless, as far as the eye could see. At this moment, Lu Chen couldn't help but be shocked. How many people were buried here? Different races, different worlds, different circumstances. How many people tried to reach the peak, but in the end, they were buried here. A cold wind blew, and the weeds in front of the tombstones swayed gently with the wind, but the tombstones didn't move at all. It was as if they were telling a truth. Life was only a moment, death was eternal. Lu Chen took a deep breath and bowed deeply to the tombstones in front of him. It didn't matter if race was good or evil. Wasn't he just like them in the past? Rhubarb, let's go. Lu Chen led Rhubarb into the graveyard. Everyone below the human king realm was buried here. Even if it was the 9-star Theo the Great, as long as he hadn't broken through to the human king realm, he could only be buried in the outermost area of the immortal corpse mound. I'm only a 1-star great cultivator now. I don't even have the qualifications to be buried here. I wonder what level the people buried here are. Lu Chen was hurrying along when he suddenly heard movement in the distance. He hurriedly called back Rhubarb and quickly moved in the direction of the sound. Hiding behind a tombstone, Lu Chen saw an open space in front of him. 20 to 30 cultivators were fighting a zombie. The zombie's strength should be around that of a first-rank demon, but its defense was extremely high. Even when surrounded, the opponent's skills and attacks hit its body, it didn't feel anything. I wonder which academy's people are doing a mission. Ignore them. Rhubarb, let's go around them. After going deep into the graveyard, Lu Chen could see some outer court disciples doing missions from time to time. The demons here were mainly zombies. They weren't fast, but their defense was very high, and it was very difficult to kill them. But occasionally, there would be demonic beasts, similar to the ones in the Netherworld prison. They had no arms or legs, but they were abnormally fierce. Why would there be such monsters in the Nether prison and the immortal corpse mound? Lu Chen was a little puzzled. Logically speaking, the corpse kings should be more like the demonic creatures of the immortal corpse mound, and there were many here that looked like they were from the Netherworld prison. Could it be that the two regions are connected in some way? Lu Chen shook his head. He didn't want to think about it for the time being and continued to go deeper. The fight between the outer court disciples helped Lu Chen attract the attention of many demons. At night, Lu Chen wretchedly made his way to the 3rd district. At night, there were almost no more fights among the outer court disciples. No one knew where they were hiding to recuperate. Lu Chen found a giant tree that had been split open and hid there for the time being. The outer yard disciples are usually concentrated in the 2 outermost areas. I'm afraid we'll have to be careful later. The surroundings were jittery. Lu Chen didn't dare to sleep deeply. He closed his eyes and meditated to recover his energy. I don't know how Li Wei is doing. The Seoul Martial Hall should be opening soon. Many things that hadn't been dealt with came rushing in. Lu Chen also felt a rare pressure. I have to find the emptiness of gods and demons quickly. At this time, Lu Chen suddenly felt that there seemed to be a spiritual energy fluctuation not far away. He opened his eyes. A black shadow instantly drilled into the night. When Lu Chen chased out of the tree hole, he couldn't see anything. Was it a demon? Lu Chen was suspicious. After thinking for a moment, he immediately called out Rhubarb. Rhubarb, can you catch up to that thing? Rhubarb immediately fled into the night. Lu Chen hurriedly chased after it. Tian had once said that they shouldn't move in the middle of the night. The demons in the immortal corpse tomb were more active at night. However, Lu Chen already couldn't care less. He had a feeling that that thing wasn't a demon. Rhubarb chased all the way into the depths of the immortal corpse tomb. It was obviously not a good thing to run wildly in the cemetery in the middle of the night. Lu Chen held the illusory black crystal bow and followed closely behind. They had already entered the cemetery of the 3rd district. The cemetery of the 2nd district was for 1-star human kings to 3-star human kings to be buried there. The cemetery of the 3rd district was for 4-star human kings to 6-star human kings. However, even with such a shocking cultivation, it was still difficult to escape the fate of being turned into ashes. Just as Rhubarb chased after the black shadow, Rhubarb's body suddenly tilted. The cemetery shook loudly. Rhubarb! Lu Chen moved and dashed forward. Just as he picked up Rhubarb, the ground beneath them suddenly surged up. Who knew how many graves were destroyed? Skeletons rose up along with the black soil. 9 void steps. Lu Chen quickly recalled Rhubarb and used his movement technique to quickly escape. Just as he landed, Lu Chen suddenly realized that the ground beneath his feet wasn't stable anymore. In the night, those graves were like lonely boats in the water, swaying. No, the entire ground was shaking. What's down there? Lu Chen's eyes widened. Judging from the range of the ground, he had never seen such a huge thing. A moment later, the ground beneath his feet exploded again. A large number of graves were destroyed. Lu Chen quickly spread his wings and soared into the sky. He held the black crystal bow and stared at the ground. At the same time, the surrounding outer court disciples hiding in the darkness were also alarmed. They all rushed toward Lu Chen's direction. What's going on? Why is there such a big commotion? Who's still out hunting in the middle of the night? Look, there's a red figure in the air over there. The 3rd district is up ahead. Don't go near it. Why is he alone? Which academy is he from? Lu Chen didn't care about the surrounding outer court disciples. At this time, he was completely focused on staring at the ground beneath his feet. He didn't know if it was because of that strange thing just now, or if he and Rhubarb had alarmed some terrifying demon underground. But no matter what, he had already been targeted by that thing underground. Heaven's Eye. Lu Chen activated his Heaven's Eye and waited. With a loud bang, the ground exploded. A huge figure, covered in green flames, burst out from the ground. So fast. Lu Chen's eyes widened. 9 void steps. At the same time, after the thing underground rushed out from the messy ground, the exposed skeletons were driven by some unknown force. They actually moved on their own and drilled back into the ground. This. Lu Chen inadvertently saw this scene and was even more shocked. Even if it was the skeleton of a super expert, the person was already dead. How could the bones move on their own? What the hell was this? There really was a ghost. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to figure out what was going on with the skeletons. The huge green figure had already punched him. Ah! Green fire corpse incineration. The huge figure roared. Its huge fist was like a meteorite burning with green flames, and it had already hit Lu Chen. In the distance, a mentor opened his eyes wide. Green Fire Corpse King. Why why is there a green fire corpse king here? Uncle, what is a green fire corpse king? I have never seen one before. A disciple asked. Green fire corpse king is a kind of corpse king. Its whole body is covered in ghost fire. The green flame is resistant to the fire when the soul is burned. Once it is touched by a skill or a physical body, it will be attached to the body and can't be dispelled. Can't be dispelled. Then, this green fire corpse king can't be killed. You can kill it, but unless you can kill it instantly, your soul will be burned out by the green fire scorching soul before you can kill it instantly. That guy is at least a level 4 demon. Moreover, the corpse king's defense is extremely high. Even if you are a few levels higher, you can't kill it instantly. The mentor nodded. Yes, that guy is disabled and his strength will be reduced. Of course, he will die if he fights recklessly. At this moment, a loud roar suddenly came from the distance. Chaotic spiritual chi. Sky-breaking sword. Chapter 987. In the face of the green fire corpse king's attack, Lu Chen chose to use the soul-body fusion skill. A white light flashed, and with a boom, the ground instantly cracked. The arm of the green fire corpse king was directly cut off. On Lu Chen's body, the cyan flames had already climbed onto his body at some point, and the flames were jumping. Lu Chen felt that his consciousness was almost lost. This flame is so evil. Perhaps it was the flame that affected Lu Chen's attack. He only cut off the green fire corpse king's arm and did not kill it directly. At the critical moment, Lu Chen quickly took out the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror and shouted, "Withdraw." Under the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror, the spiritual chi of the green flame was quickly absorbed by the mirror and the flame was finally extinguished. Fortunately, I have the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror. Otherwise, this flame is really troublesome. Lu Chen immediately turned around and rushed towards the green fire corpse king. The corpse king's strength was not its speed. Its most terrifying aspect was its defense. Even experts who were a few levels higher could not break its defense in a short time. The green fire corpse king was more powerful than the corpse king was the soul-burning green fire. Once it was ignited, it would not stop until it was dead. Too bad you met me. Lu Chen snorted coldly. His white hair danced in the wind as the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror hovered beside Lu Chen, spinning continuously. Tiger descends the mountain. Suppressive fire. Boom. 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 A series of explosions filled the entire area with flames. My God, what kind of attack is that? That explosion expert's firepower is too ridiculous. No, that guy is a dual cultivator, an explosion expert and a sword cultivator. But, how could he cut off the green fire corpse king's arm? Fighting the rank 4 green fire corpse king alone. Who is this white-haired man? The green fire corpse king's defense was indeed very high. Although Lu Chen did not use dual heaven's wrath and celestial devil astral body, the soul body fusion and the chaotic spiritual chi made his attack very powerful. However, the 50 spiritual energy cannons did not penetrate the green fire corpse king's body. Ah! Go to hell, ant. No door to hell. All of a sudden, the entire area was engulfed in raging green flames, surrounding Lu Chen. However, the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror suddenly shone brightly. The green fire around it burned for a moment, but the intensity of the fire gradually weakened until it was extinguished. Damn it! Pure yang 8 trigrams mirror. Lu Chen coldly snorted. Can't a single blast of the spiritual energy cannon kill you? Then let's do it again. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Suppressive fire. 50 spiritual energy cannons powered by chaos spiritual energy exploded on the corpse king's body. The cannonball hit the wound from before. This time, it directly broke through the defense and blasted a huge hole in the ground. In a flash, Lu Chen pierced through the Green Fire Corpse King's chest with his sword. When he passed through the Green Fire Corpse King's body, there was already a rank 4 demonic pill in his hand. In the next moment, Lu Chen looked in the direction where the black shadow had disappeared into the night in a flash. After the Green Fire Corpse King lost its demonic pill, the green fire on its body gradually extinguished. The surrounding outer yard disciples saw this and saw that the white-haired, one-armed man had already gone far away. They hurriedly rushed over. There were still many materials on the Corpse King's body that could be used, especially the Corpse King's skin, which had high elemental resistance and high physical and spiritual defense. The Corpse King's bones were extremely tough and were an important material for refining weapons and elixirs. The white-robed man only took the demonic pill and did not have time to cut off the Corpse King's skin. "Is that guy an expert who came here to wait for his death?" someone asked while busying himself. "He only has one arm, so there's no hope for him to break through." "It doesn't look like it. Usually, experts who come here to wait for their death don't have any treasures on them. However, that guy even brought a mirror just now. It doesn't look like he's willing to wait for his death." A mentor squinted his eyes slightly. "White hair, one arm. That guy, why does he look a little like that person?" A student beside him asked, "Uncle Huagu, who do you think he looks like?" "The Dean of the Demonic Academy, Nameless. He has already entered the depths of the third zone. Why would he go to the depths of the Immortal Corpse Mound alone?" Huagu said to his disciples. "Hurry up and collect the resources. We'll return to the academy immediately. We have to report this to the academy." Lu Chen chased all the way. His physical strength was rapidly depleting and he could not hold on for long. The black shadow was very arrogant. After the Green Fire Corpse King appeared, it did not run far. Instead, it went into a cave. It was also because of this that Lu Chen directly activated the soul body as one. Of course, Lu Chen was also betting everything. The Green Fire Corpse King's strength was not to be underestimated. If he did not activate the soul body as one, Lu Chen might not have a chance of winning, let alone killing it quickly. However, in order to chase the black shadow, he also held back some of his strength. He did not activate the godly devil astral body, bedevilment, and heaven's might. After the Green Fire Corpse King was killed, the black shadow rushed out of the cave again. Lu Chen did not have time to collect more materials and chased after it. "Damn it, this guy can't be deliberately seducing me, right?" Lu Chen already felt that something was wrong. He used the 9 void steps continuously, but he could not catch up with the black shadow. The other party seemed to be deliberately keeping a few hundred meters away from him. He could not see clearly and could not catch up. However, he did not lose track of it either. Unknowingly, Lu Chen had already gone deep into the 4th district. Most of the area was a cemetery. When Lu Chen stepped into the cemetery again, he found that the black shadow seemed to have suddenly stopped. However, in the face of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Lu Chen did not dare to move an inch. Beneath his feet, the ground rumbled and a tombstone was slowly pushed away. Lu Chen stared at the tombstone with wide eyes. Something was coming out. He took the opportunity to look at the tombstone of the cemetery in the 4th district. "All I seek in my life is to become an immortal. Half a step away, I can't sleep at night. The great emperor of 8 stars, a 9-star monarch, may be buried here." The tombs of 8-star and 9-star monarchs moved. The bad news was that there were still 4 to 5 minutes left in the soul body as one. His physical strength was almost exhausted. The good news was that he still had the godly demon astral constitution, bedevilment, and dual heavenly might. Dual heavenly might not be effective at this time. There was no one around. In addition, the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror was still normal. It's just that Lu Chen couldn't imagine what would come out of the tomb. In the distance, the black shadow directly disappeared into a pitch-black mountain range. That was not a real mountain range, but the legendary Sword Tomb. The Sword Tomb was endless and hundreds of meters tall. In the night, it was not much different from a continuous mountain range. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Didn't the Sword Tomb attack all nearby units? Why didn't it attack the Black Shadow? He was 60 to 70% sure that that thing was most likely the emptiness of gods and demons. Damn, even if I can pass this level, do I still have to enter the Sword Tomb? At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in Lu Chen's mind. Boss, perhaps I can help you with the Sword Tomb. Focus on the enemy in front of you first. I have a feeling that the opponent this time is extremely terrifying. Lu Chen nodded. He held the godly demon Limitless Sword tightly in his right hand and stared at the tomb. With a bang, a black coffin burst out of the ground and landed steadily in front of Lu Chen. Suddenly, a deep and drawn-out voice sounded. Who is disturbing my slumber? No matter who you are already dead. Chapter 988. In the immortal corpse mound, a wooden coffin fell in front of Lu Chen. Suddenly, the wooden coffin stood upright. An icy cold air gushed out from the wooden coffin. After all, he had seen a lot of demons and ghosts in Jiutian, but this was the first time Lu Chen encountered such a strange situation. It must be known that from the fifth heaven onwards, the body transmigrated. The person in the wooden coffin should have been dead for a long time. At this moment, a silver light suddenly shot out from the direction of the sword mound. Fortunately, Lu Chen reacted quickly and dodged in time. The silver light did not attack Lu Chen. It just brushed past him and stabbed into the ground in front of the wooden coffin. Lu Chen took a closer look. It turned out to be a spear. Under the moonlight, the silver spear was still trembling violently and emitting a buzzing sound. With a bang, the lid of the wooden coffin suddenly opened and hit the ground. Inside the wooden coffin, a mummy stood upright. Then, the mummy opened its eyes. It was a pair of empty eye sockets without eyeballs. The muscles on its face were like withered tree roots. The long hair on its head was sparse, and the light blue robe on its body did not rot. On the contrary, it looked quite neat. The mummy raised its arm and revealed its withered hand. With a light squeeze, the spear instantly returned to its hand. The mummy's movements seemed a bit stiff. It tilted its head and looked at the spear in its hand with its empty eyes. Although it had no eyeballs, its expressionless face allowed one to imagine its current expression. It tilted its head and focused on the spear in its hand. It gently stroked the spear and said stiffly, "Silver Gut, you're still here." The spear emitted a buzzing sound as if it was responding to its master. Lu Chen did not dare to be careless. This person's realm was at least 8 or 9 stars of the human king realm. Moreover, the black shadow alone had awakened this person from hundreds of thousands of graves, which was enough to show its strength. His body had not decayed for 1,000 years, which showed how powerful this person was when he was alive. Although he had no equipment or treasures, and his body had become a mummy, Lu Chen did not dare to underestimate this person. Finally, the mummy turned its head and looked at Lu Chen. "I, Chang Ming, do not kill nameless people. Tell me your name." Having said that, he raised the spear in his hand and pointed the tip of the spear. A swift and fierce energy instantly shot out. However, the spiritual energy dissipated in front of Lu Chen and turned into a strong wind, blowing up Lu Chen's white hair. Lu Chen took a deep breath. "Senior Chang Ming, I am solipsistic." Solipsistic? Chang Ming snorted coldly, and then looked at Lu Chen. 7th level of the symbiosis of gods and devils. After the 6 basic enhancements, the battle spirit's spiritual energy is close to 5 million, and there is also the enhancement of the all-living things bloodline, the chaos spiritual pill. It's still worth looking at. Lu Chen could not help but take a deep breath. Chongming knew his condition like the back of his hand with just a glance. Since this person was different from ordinary demons and had a very obvious self-awareness, Lu Chen naturally hoped to avoid fighting if possible. I did not intend to disturb Senior's slumber by chasing the strange object until now. Who knew that the mummy was unmoved? You have at least 2 sets of God and demon life reversing set on you, so I naturally know that you are here to chase after the emptiness of gods and demons. Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. From Chongming's mouth, Lu Chen seemed to be even more certain that the emptiness of gods and demons was one of the god and demon set. Senior, you know about the god and demon set? The mummy said, in my era, there was a rumor that fate played tricks on people. Only by breaking through the Jiutian would one be able to break free from the shackles of fate. And the god and demon set you are talking about should be the god and demon life reversing set. To break through the Jiutian, the God and Demon Life Reversing Set is one of the opportunities. God and Demon Life Reversing Set, countless geniuses who are unwilling to be manipulated by fate will pursue it together. Lu Chen's eyes were round, as if he was getting closer and closer to his goal. Kid, how many God and Demon Life Reversing Sets do you have? 4. Lu Chen did not hide it. God and Demon Limitless Sword, God and Demon 9 Transformations, God and Demon Primordial Heart Sutra, God and Demon Lotus Heart. 4. There is actually someone who can collect 4 God and Demon Life Reversing Sets. Looking at your incomplete body, it must not have been easy. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. However, Chongming was right. The difficulty of obtaining each piece of the God and Demon set could only be described as heaven-defying. For these 4 pieces of the God and Demon set, Lu Chen did not know how many times he had almost died. Looks like you are also a pitiful person who is being manipulated by fate. Lu Chen frowned. Senior, why do you say that? There are a total of 9 pieces of the God and Demon Life Reversing set. Even if you have great ability and great luck, you can only obtain 8 pieces at most. The last piece, you will never be able to obtain. Why? Lu Chen could not help but ask. There is one piece that does not exist in this world. The mummy was not in a hurry to make a move. It looked at Lu Chen coldly with an expressionless face. The God and Demon in the God and Demon Life Reversing set does not exist. If the God and Demon Life Reversing set cannot be gathered, then it will not be able to unleash its full power. Lu Chen could not help but tremble, his mind trembled, and his body involuntarily took half a step back. The God and Demon set that he had been desperately searching for could not be gathered at all. The last piece did not exist at all. Was there anything more devastating than this? It was as if all his efforts were meaningless. Perhaps, those who had once obstructed him were watching him struggle from somewhere, but it was as if they were watching a clown struggling on its deathbed. I don't believe it. Lu Chen said angrily. Believe it or not, I have no reason to lie to you. After all, you are just a person who is about to die. Lu Chen glared at Chongming. Senior, must you stop me? Knowing about the God and Demon Life Reversing set, you still haven't given up. Give up. Unless I die, the game will never end. Chongming's voice was filled with endless vicissitudes. Do you think death is the end? No, death is just the beginning. You and I, in the end, will not be able to escape fate. Solipsistic, I advise you to take out all of your abilities. Let me see if there is anyone who can call himself crazy in front of me. Chongming, 1,000 years later. The wind rose and the clouds surged. Moonlight from the dark moon shone down on this boundless graveyard. Under the moon, a dried corpse and a white-haired man with a severed arm stood facing each other. In the entire immortal corpse tomb, the cold wind whistled and the demons were hidden. There were no spectators here, but countless tombstones seemed to be watching this battle. Spear way, spear like shooting stars. Suddenly, Chongming moved. His speed was completely different from his previous stiff movements. With a silver light, Changming held onto his spear and rushed in front of Lu Chen. Spear way, star shattering. A cold light shot straight towards Lu Chen's right arm. Was this guy really a dried corpse that had been dead for thousands of years? The speed was simply unimaginable. Devil Beast Sovereign, Stage 4 Divine Beast, and so on, were simply moving in slow motion compared to it. Furthermore, this person's control of spirit energy had reached perfection. Outside of his moves, there was not a single trace of spirit energy escaping. This meant that he had already concentrated all of his spirit energy into his moves. Lu Chen's eyes were about to split open. Even with the Heaven's Eye, it was difficult to capture Changming's figure. He didn't even have time to react before the gall bladder pierced through his right shoulder. Solipsistic, rest here with us. Chapter 989. A sharp pain came from his body. Lu Chen's eyes were about to split open. Logically speaking, under such circumstances, Lu Chen should have retreated with all his might, in order to neutralize the impact of the spear. However, Lu Chen did not retreat. Pure Yang 8 trigrams mirror. A golden light shone towards the spear-wielding corpse. Changming had no choice but to use his left arm to block the light. Of course, at this moment, his right hand was still holding onto the spear tightly. With a twist of his hand, the silver pellet quickly rotated, and the spear that was inserted into Lu Chen's shoulder quickly stirred up Lu Chen's wound. Taking advantage of the moment when Changming blocked the pure Yang 8 trigrams mirror, Lu Chen's body suddenly rushed forward, allowing the spear to completely pierce through his right chest. Fierce Tiger descends the mountain. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Lu Chen's move was the opposite, not retreating but advancing. It was truly unexpected. However, Changming suddenly exerted force in his hand, causing the silver pellet to fly out from Lu Chen's wound, and with a flash, he was already behind Lu Chen, catching the spear with a backhand move. The power of the Star Shatterer was extremely great. After Changming caught the spear, his entire body was still pushed back, so he did not have the chance to continue attacking Lu Chen from behind. However, Lu Chen's situation was even worse. The battle soul activated the Buddha's salvation and saved his life, but Lu Chen's body was severely injured, and a bloody hole appeared in his chest. Although he had cleverly avoided the explosion of the Star Shatterer, he could no longer lift his right arm. Changming stopped his spear and looked at the heavily injured Lu Chen expressionlessly. "You have some guts." Lu Chen hung his right arm, gasping for breath as he looked at Changming. This person was too strong. His speed and reaction had reached the pinnacle. If not for the pure Yang 8 trigrams mirror restraining him, he would have died just now. Now that his right arm was severely injured, it was too difficult to defeat such an opponent. Solipsistic, give up struggling. In front of me, you will definitely die. Changming dragged his spear, step by step. Lu Chen's mind raced. Why was this guy so strong? He had clearly been dead for thousands of years, and the spirit chi in his spirit core had already weakened beyond recognition. As for the strength of his physical body, did he even have a physical body to speak of? This fellow's current strength should not even be 1/10 of his previous strength. However, at this moment, a dried corpse was already so terrifying. It was hard to imagine how terrifying this Changming was when he was alive. Are you still thinking of countermeasures? You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin. No, you've already seen the coffin. If I'm not wrong, you can't use any of your offensive skills. Your only chance of survival is to run. However, in terms of speed, you are still no match for me. Lu Chen looked in the direction of the sword vault. The emptiness of gods and demons should be hiding there. They were only a few thousand meters apart. He was only a few thousand meters away from the next godly demon set. Suddenly, Lu Chen straightened his body, turned his head, and wiped the blood on his collar. Green smoke billowed from his eyes. Changming, I won't run, and I won't give up either. Even if you say that you can't gather all of the God and Devil defying set, that won't change the God and Devil. You're really stubborn. You can't even beat me. Lu Chen sneered, if you were alive, I wouldn't be your match. But now, I don't think so. I think you're daydreaming. If not for the 8 trigrams mirror, you would have died just now. Forget it, let the silver gallbladder break your final fantasy. With that, Changming stepped on the Qiankuan and Kuan palaces, holding onto the spear with both hands. No matter what, you are an opponent worthy of respect. I will use this move to end you, and not disgrace your name. With a boom, the body of the silver gallbladder spear ignited with flames. The flames danced and grew endlessly. Immediately after, Changming twisted his fingers and the spear started to spin quickly. In an instant, Changming's figure turned into a ray of fire and shot towards Lu Chen. Spear Soul War Body. Spear Way. Fire Dragon swallows the heavens. Changming's speed was so fast that it was unimaginable. The naked eye could no longer catch him. He shot over 100 meters away, creating a ravine on the ground behind him. Lu Chen's eyes widened, and he shouted in a low voice, bedevilment. Divine Devil Star Body. Lu Chen's speed suddenly exploded, and in the blink of an eye, he had already dodged. Divine Devil Star Body. He actually still has a trick up his sleeve. The red flame spun rapidly, and actually locked onto Lu Chen's figure. Unfortunately, it's all futile in front of me. That guy's star body probably exceeded the second stage. Even the Divine Devil Star Body could not force out his star body, and he could even lock onto Lu Chen's position. After dodging twice, for the third time, Lu Chen used the Void 9 steps. But this time, he did not dodge, but rushed towards Changming. Changming probably did not expect that this guy would suddenly rush towards him. One had to know that Lu Chen's right arm was already crippled, and he did not have a left arm. His offensive skills were almost completely crippled. Rushing over now was no different from a moth flying into a flame, a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You're courting death. Break for me. Changming shouted angrily, and the long spear in his hand was burning fiercely. But at this moment, Lu Chen's drooping right arm suddenly flashed with a golden luster, and a large number of scales flipped over, covering the wound on his chest. At the same time, Lu Chen grabbed the Divine Devil Limitless sword that was hanging beside him. Lu Chen's face was ferocious, and his eyes were rolling with green smoke. One sword. Break the sky. A white light exploded over the cemetery, almost illuminating the entire night. The two super strong attacks collided head-on in the air, instantly forming a huge spiritual energy ball, illuminating the night sky. The dormant outer yard disciples in the first and second districts of the Immortal Corpse Mound were awakened by this white light, and they looked at the northern sky in horror. Look, what is that? The spiritual energy ball condensed by the explosion of spiritual energy. How terrifying is the spiritual energy contained in this spiritual energy ball? It actually illuminates the night sky like it's daytime. Who is fighting in the depths of the Immortal Corpse Mound? Could it be a super strong person in the Human King realm? As soon as the voice fell, the spiritual energy ball instantly exploded, and a violent spiritual energy storm swept through the entire Immortal Corpse Mound from an unknown distance. Many people had to open their spiritual energy shields to block the wind. My God, just the aftershock is already so terrifying. It's hard to imagine how terrifying the battle over there is. Could it be that this came from the 4th district? What kind of joke is this? The aftershock of the spiritual energy ball can actually reach 100 miles. The white light flashed and disappeared. Everyone's line of sight, because of the strong light just now, was left with a white illusion, and then returned to normal. They watched the night sky gradually return to the color of ink. At the same time, in the 4th district of the Immortal Corpse Mound, Lu Chen knelt on one knee and coughed violently. The dragon scales faded, and the wound on his chest kept bleeding. The state of divine devil symbiosis disappeared, but his face was so pale that it was a bit scary. Behind him, Changming stood in place, and the night wind blew his sparse hair. At this time, Changming was still expressionless. The flame on the spear in his hand faded, and Lu Chen's silver luster. Taking a deep breath, Changming raised his head and stared at the night sky with his empty eye sockets. Mutated dragon crystal. I didn't expect you to have this, solipsistic. I really hope I met you when I was still alive. Then we can have a good battle. Lu Chen forcibly stopped coughing. Your spear, why did you stop at the end? Changming turned around and looked at Lu Chen. The corner of his mouth opened stiffly, revealing a somewhat horrifying smile. There is no reason, that is my choice. Chapter 990. To be able to maintain a clear mind in such a predicament, using the 9 steps in the void to lure the enemy, making me think that you only know how to dodge, the final attack. Changming quietly looked at Lu Chen. Not bad. As he spoke, a gash suddenly appeared in front of Changming's chest. Following that, his arms and shoulders turned into pieces of dust and fell to the ground. Senior Changming. Changming's words finally sped up. Dust to dust, earth to earth, this is where I belong. Solipsistic, the weakness caused by your mutated dragon crystal is the result of your attribute not being strong enough to fuse with it. Although I don't know why you didn't die from the backlash, I can tell you that there is only one way to break free from this state. Lu Chen stood up shakily. What method? Find the planet's crystal and strengthen your body. One side of Changming's face had already turned into dirt and fell to the ground. He looked up at the sky. Can the 8 pieces of Demon God's fate reversal create a miracle? Unfortunately, I have no chance to see it. Let the silver gallbladder help me witness it. Solipsistic, Changming's battle with June, is enough. Farewell. With a whoosh, Changming's body turned into dirt and collapsed to the ground. Only the silver spear stood between heaven and earth. A gentle breeze blew past, and the originally shining silver spear lost its luster in an instant. The legend had come to an end. Lu Chen walked towards the spear step by step, his heart filled with disappointment. Changming's strength could be said to be the strongest among the opponents he had encountered. Although he had sparred with the mountain people before, at that time, he was weak. Naturally, the mountain people did not display such terrifying fighting strength. Lu Chen could not guess how strong he was. Not only that, although it was only a shallow side, Changming's quick revenge had already made Lu Chen admire him. The silver gallbladder had already lost its original power. The battle just now might be its final battle. At this moment, a green grass broke out from the soil on the ground. Lu Chen looked at the grass in surprise, and couldn't help but think of Changming's words. Death was not the end, but the beginning. A voice in his head told Lu Chen that the grass was the netherworld heavenly dew that he was looking for. Lu Chen carefully dug out the netherworld heavenly dew and kept it in his backpack. He bowed deeply to the silver gallbladder and the dust on the ground and said solemnly, Senior Changming, thank you. After that, Lu Chen turned around and continued rushing towards the sword tomb. Arriving in front of the sword mound, Lu Chen was already gasping for breath. His footsteps were swaying, but his final determination was still supporting him, refusing to fall. The emptiness of gods and demons was here. At this time, Lu Chen was completely out of condition, but if he gave up now, he did not know if he would still have a chance to catch the emptiness of gods and demons. Standing in front of the sword tomb, Lu Chen summoned Little Green and asked her to help him stop the bleeding. Little Green, I found the netherworld heavenly dew. At this time, Little Green did not care about the netherworld heavenly dew. She helped Lu Chen treat his wounds with tears in her eyes. Boss, with your injuries, you can't continue chasing. I'm afraid that if I miss this opportunity, I won't be able to find it next time. Tian had encountered the emptiness of gods and demons before, but after losing the battle, he went to the Immortal Master Tomb many times to look for it, but he never found it again. Lu Chen's situation was different from Yi Tian's, but he did not dare to miss the opportunity. Using Little Green to treat his wounds, Lu Chen sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to rest. He was too tired. After an unknown period of time, Lu Chen suddenly opened his eyes and found that his surroundings were still dark. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Little Green, how long did I rest just now? Boss, 3 hours. But what you've been chasing, is it that thing? It's always there. I saw that it didn't run away, so I didn't wake you up. Lu Chen looked carefully. A few hundred meters away, a black shadow was lying in the air. The reason why he could tell that there was something there was because its color was darker than the night, and its body was flowing slowly. It seemed to be a living thing. Lu Chen let out a sigh of relief and frowned. Could it be that guy is waiting for me? If I knew, I would have slept a little longer. Although he said that, Lu Chen did not dare to sleep again. The sky was still light, who knew if there would be any changes after dawn? Limitless, how do we break the sword tomb? Lu Chen looked at the limitless demon god sword. The weapons here almost don't have a weapon spirit. Without the owner's spiritual power, they only rely on their subconscious attacks. This subconscious attack has already become their instinct. Under such circumstances, unless these broken weapons are completely destroyed, the intruder will be attacked endlessly. Even if Changming is in his peak state, I'm afraid he will be exhausted to death. Wouldn't that be very difficult to pass? Lu Chen frowned. Boss, have you forgotten about my old profession? Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. The limitless demon god sword's old profession. That's right, its old profession was to devour weapons. Boss, these weapons don't have a master's spiritual power infused into them, so they're basically ownerless items. Moreover, they don't have weapon spirits, so I can easily suppress their consciousness. Naturally, I can swallow them, but they're already in a broken state, so they won't be of much help to me. They don't taste good either, they're all rusty old things, so they're hard to swallow, but, for you, boss, I'll reluctantly eat a little. Lu Chen sucked in a breath of air. So this was how the limitless sword passed through the sword tomb. Boss, but you have to be careful. Although some weapons do not have a weapon spirit, if they are made of special materials and have a deep-rooted obsession, just like that silver gallbladder, they can still be summoned by their owner after thousands of years. I am unable to suppress this kind of weapon directly, so you still need to be vigilant. Lu Chen nodded, all right, if there aren't too many weapons attacking me, I can deal with them. We just need to catch that emptiness of gods and demons, there's no need to fight. After agreeing on the strategy, Lu Chen recalled Little Green and stepped into the sword tomb with the limitless demon god sword. Just as he entered the sword tomb, Lu Chen noticed that the countless weapons inserted into the sword tomb began to sway slightly. Not long after, the entire sword tomb was shaking. Boss, be careful. Lu Chen nodded, his gaze fixed on the floating black shadow in the distance. That guy was still there, as if he was watching Lu Chen's every move. You want to see me make a fool of myself? You definitely won't be able to escape this time. Lu Chen said coldly. He took a deep breath and continued to walk into the sword tomb. Suddenly, several weapons broke free from the ground and stabbed toward Lu Chen. Then, more and more weapons shot out from the ground. A large number of weapons gathered and rushed toward Lu Chen. There were so many weapons, broken swords, broken spears, talisman dust, magic staffs, bows, and so on. As long as it was a weapon that could be seen normally, it could be seen here. It was like entering the creation space was the ultimate difficulty, but just as those weapons approached Lu Chen, the limitless demon god sword exploded with energy. The sword spun on its own, and the black and white spirit chi spun with the sword, forming a whirlpool. Ha ha ha, come over here. The limitless demon god sword made a rare sound. A large number of broken weapons were directly sucked into the whirlpool, and the limitless demon god's sword had already begun to devour them. Lu Chen frowned. Damn, is this my opportunity or yours? Chapter 991. The limitless sword of the divine and demon had described the sword catacomb to be very dangerous, but in the end, it was eating very happily. The limitless sword of the divine and demon was really a bottomless pit. Countless weapons were sucked into the vortex. Even if the limitless sword said that these weapons would only improve it a little, with such a large amount, it was unknown if they could improve the limitless sword. Unfortunately, Lu Chen could not check the limitless sword's status at this time. Boss, we can't stay here for long. There are demonic artifact spirits awakening, and there is more than one. Quickly go and catch the emptiness of gods and demons. The limitless sword of the divine and demon seemed to have realized something was wrong and hurriedly said to Lu Chen. Demonic artifact spirits. Lu Chen did not know what they were for the time being, but from the limitless sword's tone, he knew that once that thing came out, he would have to fight again. In his current state, it would be very difficult to kill his way out of the encirclement. Lu Chen immediately activated Divine Demon Symbiosis. I'll see where you run to. 9 void steps. After saying that, Lu Chen flashed and pounced on the black shadow. In front of him, the black shadow did not run this time. It waited until Lu Chen approached. At this time, Lu Chen could see clearly what this black mass was. This black mass was surrounded by a faint white fog. Inside, it was a black vortex with specks of light. Looking carefully at the black vortex, Lu Chen could not help but be shocked. Looking deep into the black vortex, he could see countless spirits struggling inside. This is... Lu Chen was stunned. Tian had only said that he had fought with the emptiness of gods and demons demon before, but the emptiness of gods and demons was not in front of Lu Chen at all. After seeing the emptiness of gods and demons' true appearance, Lu Chen was at a loss. Suddenly, a voice sounded. This voice seemed to be formed by countless vengeful spirits, making one's hair stand on end. You want to subdue me? Lu Chen's eyelids twitched, but he quickly calmed down. There was no time to waste. Not bad. You have the 4 great fiend god fate-reversing fragments. Along the way, you have killed 2 opponents who were far stronger than you. You can be considered to have some strength. However, if you want me to willingly become a part of your body, you have yet to meet my requirements. Lu Chen stared at the shadow. What other conditions do you need? Do you dare to enter my great void realm? Within the realm of my emptiness of gods and demons, countless souls of the deceased have gathered. As long as they are imprisoned by me, they will not be able to escape. They will lose their minds, or even perish. Lu Chen frowned. Wasn't this clearly sending him to his death? What? Did he not dare? If you don't dare, how can you be my master? How could the fiend god fate reversing set be so easily obtained? If you don't have the courage and strength, I think you should give up on this idea as soon as possible. By the way, do you really think you can catch me? Even the fiend gods can't do anything to me. Do you think you can catch me? Lu Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at the strange black ball. Suddenly, Lu Chen said, if I can come out from there, are you willing to be my left arm? If you can come out alive, it means that you have the qualifications to be my master. Naturally, I am willing to be your left arm. Lu Chen nodded. Alright, I can enter the realm of the emptiness of gods and demons, but don't make things difficult for my friends. Friends? Are you talking about the limitless sword? I can't do anything to it. Moreover, I don't need to do anything to it. We originally came from the same origin. No, I'm not talking about it. Lu Chen finished speaking and summoned Rhubarb, Xiao Min, and Little Green. You're talking about them? My goal is to find a suitable master. Obviously, they are not my target. I can let them safely leave the immortal corpse mound. Lu Chen nodded, turned around, and handed the yellow spring heavenly dew grass to Little Green. Little Green, I don't know if I can bring you to find other materials. Give this spirit herb to the medicine boy and let him cultivate more. It should be enough for the three of you to use. At least you still have a chance to reconstruct your body. Boss. What are you talking about? You can't fight in your current state. Boss, you can't believe it. What if it's lying to you? Woof, woof, woof. Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. Old Yi said that there were records of the emptiness of gods and demons a long time ago. Chang Ming also confirmed this point. I think the emptiness of gods and demons is right. It can still exist in the immortal corpse mound, which means that no one can truly capture it. In the Jiutian, there are countless experts. If they can't subdue the emptiness of gods and demons, then I. Lu Chen smiled. The answer was self-evident. Relying on brute force, Lu Chen absolutely had no hope. Since that's the case, I believe he won't use this trick to lure me to death. But boss, didn't Chang Ming say that it's impossible to complete the life-defying set? Since that's the case, why are you still taking the risk? Lu Yi said anxiously. Is it because you don't have much time left? Lu Chen took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes slightly. There was indeed not much time left for the final battle, and he was now in deep adversity. Not to mention finding a new treasure to break the situation. But this was not the most important thing. Lu Chen said firmly, I don't believe Chang Ming's words. Or rather, I think there must be something that he doesn't know. If the life-defying set really doesn't exist, why is there a legend of the life-defying set? Where did they hear about the emptiness of gods and demons? Everything in the universe has a cause and effect. If there's a beginning, there's an end. I believe that it must exist somewhere, but boss, even if it really exists, no one has found it for 10,000 years. What if you can't find the emptiness of gods and demons? Then I'll use the incomplete life-defying set to defy this nine heavens domain. Lu Chen said resolutely, so, the emptiness of gods and demons, I must obtain it. Alright, you guys hurry up and leave. I don't know how long the limitless sword can last. Remember to bring the limitless sword back to the demonic academy. If I don't come back, you guys wait for Lu Yi and tell her everything. After saying that, Lu Chen walked towards the emptiness of gods and demons without looking back. Emptiness of gods and demons, when I return, I hope you won't disappoint me. Oh. I actually hope that there will be a day when I show off my skills. Solipsistic, come in. I can't wait to see if the emptiness of gods and demons realm is your end, or another starting point for you. Lu Yi and the rest watched as Lu Chen passed through the nebula and disappeared into the boundless darkness. Boss. Lu Yi's tears fell like rain. This was the first time their boss left them behind. This also meant that this time, Lu Chen knew how dangerous the road ahead was, and that he might not be able to come out again. Rhubarb bit Lu Yi's clothes. It seemed to understand the meaning of the limitless sword of gods and demons. The limitless sword felt that the danger was getting closer and closer, and they couldn't stay any longer. Since their boss wasn't here, it would protect Little Green and the rest. 4 days later, at the Demonic Academy, Zhongxian Ji's special envoy personally came to visit. It was Lord Yi, who had attended the class previously. The Demonic Academy's representative wasn't Dean Lu Chen, but a sea of clouds. Your nameless dean is now famous. This time, the Demonic Academy is challenging the Soul Martial Hall. Who knows how many deans from Xinyuan continent have requested to watch the battle. A sea of clouds rolled his eyes. Right now, he felt like his head was about to explode. Nameless still hadn't sent any news. At the same time, Li Wei still hadn't come out from the secret passage. However, Zhongxian Gu had already come to urge them. Since Nameless isn't here, then it's fine. Originally, the opening of the Soul Martial Hall was only a few days away from the re-ranking of the various deans. Then let's make it 3 days later. This time, I've already helped you delay it for a long time. 3 days later. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Lord Yi looked at a sea of clouds strangely. A sea of clouds, you should know that if you miss the opening of the Seoul Martial Hall, you'll have to wait 10 years. Or did something happen on Nameless' side? A sea of clouds knew that Lu Chen was going to the Immortal Corpse Mound this time for the Seoul Martial Hall. Naturally, he wouldn't tell him the truth. He could only grit his teeth and agree. Alright, 3 days later, I'll send Nameless to Zhongxian-gu. Chapter 992. After sending off Lord Yi with much difficulty, a sea of clouds went to find Yi Tian to discuss countermeasures. In 3 days, the rankings of all the major academies will be updated. At that time, the heads of all the academies will head to Zhongxian-gu. If Nameless can't make it in time, then not only will we lose the chance to enter the Seoul Martial Hall, we will also be accused of going back on our word. Yi Tian's face was serious. I know, but I can't say that we'll give up the chance to enter the Seoul Martial Hall now. A sea of clouds was anxious. Sigh, why isn't there any news from Nameless? My sound transmission glyph can't even reach Nameless, Yi Tian frowned. What they were most afraid of now was that Nameless had met with misfortune. At this moment, a disciple of the academy hurriedly came to report. Uncle A Sea of Clouds, Uncle Yi Tian, Miss Lu, Xiao Min, and Rhubarb are back. A sea of clouds and Yi Tian looked at each other and rushed out. Lu Yi told a sea of clouds and Yi Tian about Lu Chen's situation. Boss told us to come back first and entered the emptiness of gods and demons realm. Xiao Min and I are both spirits and were caught by other cultivators. We could only hurry back at night. Luckily, Rhubarb brought us back. The emptiness of gods and demons realm. Yi Tian's eyes widened. He didn't know that to obtain the emptiness of gods and demons, they had to go through this test. If that was the case, then the Seoul Martial Hall was a small matter. Nameless' life and death were uncertain. What should we do now? A sea of clouds sighed. Even though he was experienced, he was already in a terrible fix. At this moment, Yi Tian suddenly said, a sea of clouds, let Long Xiang and the others come back first. Yi Tian, what are you doing? Yi Tian took a deep breath. Elect the vice president. Since Nameless isn't here, we'll nominate him ourselves. A sea of clouds, you nominate me as the vice president of the Demonic Academy. If Nameless can't make it back in time, I'll take his place in the battle against the Seoul Martial Hall. Yi Tian, your injuries. How many years has it been since you last fought? The Seoul Martial Hall is extremely tough, and it's as dangerous as any hunting area. Yi Tian stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could see the disciples practicing in the martial arts practice field. He could also see people coming in and out of the meditation pavilion and the teaching pavilion in the distance. Today, the Demonic Academy had more than 800 disciples. The academy that used to be empty now had some semblance of life. With so many geniuses gathered here, the Demonic Academy's future will definitely exceed all of our expectations. We must provide more support for the students. Yi Tian turned around and looked at a sea of clouds, Little Green, and the others. The emptiness of gods and demons realm is a tribulation that Nameless can't avoid. I don't know if he can survive this tribulation. We can't help him. But what we can do is to look after the academy for him. Although half of my body is crippled, Nameless can still lead the Demonic Academy to where it is today. As a member of the Demonic Academy, why should I be afraid when even the Dean is like this? As for the secret passage, a sea of clouds, I'll leave it to Li Wei, Wu Xian, and Skyfall. Yi Tian, you're much stronger than me, but I think I should go. A sea of clouds, you used to be the Dean. The Demonic Academy still needs you to preside over the overall situation. Staying in the academy is more important than going to the Seoul Martial Hall. Tian smiled. Besides, I'm confident that I can beat you in actual combat. A sea of clouds naturally understood this principle. Tian's current arrangement was the most reasonable. After a long time, a sea of clouds took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I understand. I'll immediately inform the other instructors to come back. But Tian. A sea of clouds wanted to say something else, but in the end, he only said, you should prepare well in these 2 days. After saying this, a sea of clouds turned around and left in a hurry. Tian knew that this old friend of his was worried about him, but there was no better way at the moment. Soon, all the instructors outside the demonic academy urgently returned to the academy. The instructors held a meeting and elected Tian as the vice dean of the demonic academy. There was only 1 day left until the Seoul Martial Hall's challenge. They would set off early tomorrow morning. In a small independent courtyard in the dormitory area, Tian sat alone in the courtyard and drank a few cups of wine. He had originally decided to retire, but who would have thought that not only would he become the vice dean of the demonic academy, but he would also represent the demonic academy to go to the Seoul Martial Hall tomorrow. After drinking the wine in his cup, Tian raised his hand and a tiger head scimitar appeared in his hand. Under the moonlight, an old man was dancing with a scimitar. The scimitar was sparkling and his figure was ethereal. With a long scimitar in hand, Tian seemed to have found the feeling he had before. Once, he was only 1 step away from the human king realm. Once, he fought with the rank 6 flaming corpse king controlled by the emptiness of gods and demons and cut off one of its arms. However, not long after, he was already out of breath. With a simple swing of the scimitar and a twist of his body, he fell directly to the ground. Picking up the scimitar, Tian let out a long sigh. After all, he was no longer the all-powerful Tian. Nameless figure flashed through his mind when he closed his eyes. The scene of Lu Chen killing the 3 powerhouses in 1 hit in the nether prison was imprinted in his mind. That sword strike changed the color of heaven and earth. Yongyang had a weak body. If Nameless could do it, why couldn't he? Suddenly, Tian's eyes were burning with anger. He raised the long scimitar with 1 hand. Again. The next morning, Long Xiang, Saiji, Lu Yi, Xiao Min, and Rhubarb followed Tian to Zhongxiangu. The reason why Lu Yi and the others went together was that if their boss could come out of the great illusionary land in time, he would definitely go to Zhongxiangu. Saiji summoned his mount, the golden bowl of Luohan, and set off with everyone. A few hours later, Little Green saw a few vague shadows in the clouds in the distance. What's that? Why are they in the clouds? Lu Yi asked. Saiji said, that's where Zhongxiangu is. Zhongxianji's style is not on the same level as ours. Their base is Mount Yunxian, and Mount Yunxian is made up of floating islands in the sky. Floating mountains. Xiao Min's eyes widened. Zhongxiangu was just their base, and it had some real celestial aura. Saiji's analogy was very appropriate. Mount Yunxian was not a mountain, but was made up of a main mountain and many smaller mountains. In the middle of the majestic and magnificent mountain, there were many smaller mountains of different sizes and shapes. Between the smaller mountains, there were thick iron chains. Flying is prohibited around Mount Yunxian. Let's stop at the nearest celestial mountain, and then head to Mount Yunxian from the heaven-connecting lock, Saiji said as they landed near a small mountain and put away the golden bowl of Luohan. From afar, these mountains were not big, but when they were in the middle of it, they realized that these mountains were like small mountains, and not small at all. Not far from here, there were many buildings, but Saiji said that it was the training ground of Zhongxianji's disciples. They could not go near it, and could only pass by. From the small path to the edge of the island, in front of them, a huge chain was connected to another mountain in the distance. Let's go, we have to go to Mount Baixian first. Only the second largest mountain has the heaven-connecting lock to Mount Yunxian. Chapter 993. Today was the day that the Demonic Academy's Soul Martial Hall was opened and the ranking was updated. There were all kinds of mounts landing around them. On the heaven-connecting chains, there were rows of small black dots moving towards the second largest mountain, Immortal Reverence Mountain. The chains weren't easy to walk on, and the wind was strong. It was difficult for ordinary people to pass through the heaven-connecting chains. Tian looked at Rhubarb strangely. Little Green and Xiao Min were supported by Long Xiang and Saiji respectively, but Rhubarb was walking on his own. This guy was walking on the heaven-connecting chains as if it was flat ground. Why do I feel that Rhubarb is different from before? However, Tian didn't think too much about it. He led the group through the heaven-connecting chains. After a few hours, they finally arrived at Immortal Reverence Mountain. Lord Yi was already waiting there. When he saw the people from the Demonic Academy, he went up to them. However, he didn't see Nameless. Tian, why isn't Nameless here? At this point, Tian couldn't hide it anymore. Lord Yi, something happened to Nameless. She probably won't be able to make it to the Soul Martial Hall. I'll do it this time. Lord Yi frowned. You appointed a vice president at the last minute? Tian nodded. Lord Yi could guess what happened, but he kept shaking his head. Tian, are you sure you want to challenge the Soul Martial Hall? Your situation. Tian took a deep breath. I'll try my best. Forget it. This is your own business. Let's go. I'll take you to Immortal Cloud Mountain. Get ready. The Soul Martial Hall will open in the afternoon. There will be many people watching. Immortal Corpse Mound, deep inside the Sword Mound. Somewhere in the Sword Mound, the space here was different from the surroundings. This place was surrounded by a circle of white fog. Most of the interior was previously pitch black, but many specks of light could be seen. Lu Chen didn't know how long it had been since he entered the emptiness of gods and demons. At this moment, he was just one of the thousands of starlight. Those starlight were thousands of vengeful souls surfing the net. At this moment, an incalculable amount of starlight was rushing towards Lu Chen. After entering the realm of the emptiness of gods and demons, Lu Chen realized that there was no need to fight at all because he was completely helpless. He could only watch as countless vengeful spirits pounced on him. They entered his body and tore at his consciousness. Finally, all the vengeful spirits in the entire space had disappeared, leaving only Lu Chen as a dot of light. Lu Chen only felt his consciousness blur. There were many things in his mind that did not belong to him. I was only a step away from stepping into the immortal Tao. Why did I fail at the last step? I can't accept this, I can't accept this. I don't want to die, I can't die. If I die, who will protect my people? I've already done everything, why can't I touch that immortal door? I can't accept this. Lu Chen only felt that his brain was about to explode. He had a splitting headache. He wanted to chase away these thoughts, but he was powerless. He could only endure the unimaginable pain. Beside the waterfall, someone practiced sword techniques day after day, going against the flow of the waterfall. In the Taoist sacred land, someone was receiving the inheritance. In the dark arena, someone was covered in blood, standing in front of a pile of corpses. He was exhausted, but he had finally persevered until the end. Under the setting sun, a beautiful woman tidied a man's clothes and said reluctantly, "Go home early." In the dark hall, a giant sitting on a throne said loudly, "You must break through the sixth heaven this time." In a certain primordial world, everyone respectfully sent off a figure. That person might be the hope of their entire race. However, in the blink of an eye, he saw the world in misery and suffering. That figure charged recklessly towards the murderer of his people. Too many other people's experiences flooded in at the same time, causing Lu Chen to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He held his head with one hand, grabbing his scalp tightly. He curled up into a ball in pain and howled at the top of his lungs. Green mist gushed out uncontrollably from the corners of his tightly shut eyes. The dragon scales on his right arm flipped without any pattern, and his body erupted with spiritual energy again and again. Ah! Ah! Get out of here! Ah! The pain did not lessen with Lu Chen's howls. Gradually, Lu Chen could not hold on any longer. His consciousness blurred, and he fainted. The entire emptiness of gods and demons was silent. The only remaining light was gradually extinguished. More than 10 years ago, on a snowy night, in an alley, a little boy held a wrinkled paper bag in his hand and ran with all his might. He rounded a corner, pulled a little girl who was waiting there, and ran. Lu Yi, run! A few fierce-looking demons followed closely behind. In the end, the child did not manage to escape and was blocked in a corner. Little bastard, you dare to steal things at such a young age. You're definitely not a good person in the future. Without parents to discipline you, you can only be a robber in the future. I have to teach you a lesson now, so that you won't harm people in society in the future. The little girl stood in front of the boy and shouted with her hands outstretched, "Don't touch my brother. Get out of here, little bastard." A burly man pushed the little girl away. That's right, this little girl is in cahoots with him, yet she still dares to protect him. I'll teach you a lesson too. As he spoke, the man walked towards Lu Yi who had fallen in the corner and raised his thick arms. Lu Yi. The boy's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as he pounced on Lu Yi. That day, Lu Chen could not remember how many punches and kicks landed on his body, but he still protected Lu Yi with all his might. After an unknown period of time, the group of people finally left, but Lu Chen could not move at all. Brother! Lu Yi wriggled out of Lu Chen's arms and shook Lu Chen while crying. Brother! Don't leave me alone. Yi has already lost her parents. She can't lose her brother too. Brother! You said you won't leave me. You're lying. Brother, I beg you. Please wake up. Yi doesn't want to eat meat anymore. I don't want anything. As long as you wake up. Brother, after an unknown period of time, Lu Chen finally opened his eyes after Lu Yi shook him again and again. So noisy. Can't you let your brother rest? Brother. Lu Yi ignored the snot and tears on her face and threw herself onto Lu Chen. I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. Lu Chen raised his arm with difficulty and stroked Lu Yi's hair. Silly girl, if I die, then you'll be lonely and no one will take care of you anymore. Here, the chicken steak I snatched. Lu Chen took out the paper bag from his arms and handed it to Lu Yi. Hee, they only cared about beating me and forgot about the chicken steak. Now we're in for a treat. Cough, cough, cough. On a snowy night, a pair of siblings hid under the roof and sat side by side, happily eating the chicken steak that had been cold for a long time. It was as if there was nothing more delicious than this in the world. If I die, then no one in this world will take care of you anymore. Suddenly, Lu Chen's eyes opened abruptly. Thick green smoke came out of his eyes and it was stronger than ever. This girl was so noisy. Couldn't she let him rest properly? I can't die. Within the God-fiend Great Void Realm, that spot of light that had already weakened began to flicker once more. Chapter 994. Countless memories flooded his mind, almost suffocating Lu Chen. At this rate, he would never be able to break out of the emptiness of gods and demons' realm. Perhaps, he shouldn't reject them. Because he couldn't resist them at all. Those memories were like a tsunami, how could he resist them? Since he couldn't resist them, he had to find another way. Lu Chen gritted his teeth and sat cross-legged. The source of the headache is the conflict between the external consciousness and my own consciousness. Since I can't resist the external consciousness, there's only one way. Forget my own consciousness. Selfless. Lu Chen relied on his last bit of willpower to force himself into the selfless state. Fortunately, he had used the selfless state many times before and was very familiar with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to enter the selfless state. Forget himself, accept those memories that didn't belong to him. He listened to their past, went through their experiences, and felt their feelings. Among these people, there were some who shouldered the hopes of their clansmen, some who were unwilling to be mediocre, and some who came across fortuitous encounters. Among them, there were heroes who cherished the world, unpardonable devils, unyielding war gods, and petty people who saw the wind as the wind blew. There were humans and other races. Countless fates intertwined and converged, but in the end, they all had the same destination. Immortal Corpse Mound. In the end, these people failed to set foot on the seventh heavenly layer. Countless experts had perished in a place so close to the immortal Tao. The Jiutian was like a path to heaven paved with countless corpses. Since Lu Chen began to accept these memories, his headache gradually eased. His tightly knitted brows unconsciously relaxed, and he was immersed in the countless stories. After an unknown period of time, the spiritual core in Lu Chen's body turned into a chaos spiritual core on its own, and slowly rotated. Faint black fog exuded from Lu Chen's body. The fog slowly lingered around Lu Chen, dimming the faint light emitted from Lu Chen's body, as if Lu Chen had blended into the darkness. After an unknown period of time, Lu Chen slowly opened his eyes. He had exited the selfless state, but there was no longer any painful expression on his face, and his eyes were incomparably clear. At this time, a voice sounded in the space. "Solipsistic, I didn't expect you to make it. Those starlights are not vengeful spirits. I also did not capture those vengeful spirits. I only listened to their past. Those starlights are their memories. If you keep resisting those memories, you will lose yourself in those memories, but you can forget yourself and listen to their past. You have used another method to hold on to your heart. The sea can hold all rivers, and it's big if it's big. The galaxy is vast and there are a myriad of races standing in great numbers. Only such magnanimity can accommodate all things in the world. Solipsistic, you are my master." In the next second, Lu Chen had already exited the emptiness of gods and demons realm, and the emptiness of gods and demons was still floating in front of him. "That girl is your sister?" Lu Chen nodded. "That girl probably didn't know that this is the second time she has pulled you out of the gates of hell." Lu Chen smiled slightly. The emptiness of gods and demons said, "Solipsistic, I can be your left arm, but don't use my power easily. Your body is still too weak right now. Heal your weak state as soon as possible." Lu Chen also wanted to be healed, but the problem was that he had not had the chance yet. "Are you ready? It might hurt a little." Lu Chen smiled. "I should be able to hold on." Without saying anything else, the emptiness of gods and demons instantly shot toward Lu Chen's broken left shoulder. The white fog around the black cloud retreated, leaving only the core of the black cloud. The cloud transformed into countless tentacles, piercing Lu Chen's already healed skin and drilling into his flesh. Hiss! Lu Chen was suddenly in so much pain that he saw stars. "Can't this surgery be done after anesthetics?" The black tentacles found the meridians, then entangled and merged. This process was unbearable for Lu Chen. Ugh! Lu Chen trembled all over. He wanted to use his left hand to grab his right shoulder, but he did not dare to move. He could only grit his teeth and endure. This half an hour felt like a century. When his arm was reattached, Lu Chen was already sweating profusely and his face was pale. "Is it done?" Lu Chen gritted his teeth and asked. "It's done," his left arm said. Lu Chen looked at his left arm and was shocked. At this moment, Lu Chen's arm did not match his body size at all. Whether it was the model, shape, or color, it was completely different from his original body. The arm was almost the same size as his entire body. There were exaggerated bone spurs sticking out from the shoulder of the huge arm. The thick muscles of the arm were obvious, and the skin was dark. The right hand did not look like a human's palm, but more like a demon's claw. "Brother, did you pick up the wrong arm?" Lu Chen was speechless. Although he had rich experience in assembling limbs, this was his original body. His original body had a pair of fox ears, so he could endure it. But the arm was not so exaggerated. "This is my original appearance. Don't you like it?" Lu Chen's face darkened. "Domineering is quite domineering, but can't we at least have a uniform style? Can you restrain yourself a little? I can't even eat like this." "All right then, I will imitate your original appearance. But if you burst out with spiritual energy, don't blame me for becoming like this again." Lu Chen shook his head. All right, this was the only way. At least he still looked normal. Remember, when you cultivate in the future, try to use the mixed celestial and demon cultivation method. The emptiness of God's and demons' arm can only be driven by chaos spiritual energy. Actually, many people want to subdue me, but even if they catch me, they can't use it. Without the mixed celestial and demon cultivation method, they can't use the emptiness of God's and demons' arm at all. Once they forcefully use it, the spiritual energy in their body will be blocked, and they will explode and die. Lu Chen suddenly thought of the demon that fought with Yi Tian. It was probably because he had forcefully used the emptiness of God's and demons' arm to self-destruct. Right, does the emptiness of God's and demons' arm have any skills? You are a part of the life-defying set, so you should have some skills. Lu Chen asked, "Why can't I see your attributes? I am a part of your body." "Naturally, you can't see it. Let me tell you. The emptiness of God's and demons' arm. It passively increases the damage of all skills by 100%. I have a skill, but this skill has two forms. The emptiness of God's and demons attack form, also known as void shattering, enlarges the arm and vibrates the spiritual energy in the air, causing the enemy's spiritual energy to go out of control. If some weak people are also in the attack range, it can directly damage their spirit core. In this state, it has an attack effect similar to a Buddhist seal. I took a look, for example, your void shattering can directly attack from a distance without hitting the opponent. The emptiness of God's and demons' defense form, also known as void guard, restores the emptiness of God's and demons' arm state. It absorbs damage that is less than 10,000 times your maximum spiritual energy. Void guard doesn't have the concept of durability. As long as the opponent can't destroy void guard in one go, it can block attacks indefinitely. If you want, you can also let your left arm fly out to protect others. Lu Chen took a breath of cold air. The emptiness of God's and demons' arm was a bit strong. Chapter 995. Just a simple, passive 100% increase in the damage of all skills. This alone was enough to make Lu Chen pleasantly surprised. In addition, Void Guard was also very fierce. The attack needed to directly damage the opponent's spirit core and didn't need to hit the opponent. Void Guard could be said to make up for Lu Chen's weakness in defense. Although his own spiritual energy wasn't high, his battle soul's spiritual energy was close to 5 million. 10,000 times the attack was 50 billion. The key was that Lu Chen's battle soul could continue to improve. How many people could reach 50 billion in a single attack? As long as the Void Guard couldn't be broken in one attack, then it couldn't be broken. Although Lu Chen basically didn't defend, it was still necessary to prepare defensive skills. The blood sacrifice shield couldn't keep up with the current battle strength. The appearance of Void Guard made up for this weakness. In addition, I can communicate with souls, but it's not useful for your battle. Also, you can check the other life reversing divine demon set. Some skills will be strengthened. You also have dual divine demon heavenly might. Then you should have 6 pieces of the life-reversing divine demon set. Lu Chen had used the lotus heart of gods and demons, mixed divine demon cultivation technique, limitless divine demon sword, and divine demon 9 transformations in the immortal corpse tomb. Only the dual divine demon heavenly might was not displayed by Lu Chen. Even the emptiness of gods and demons only discovered it after it connected to Lu Chen's shoulder. Lu Chen said, "I couldn't completely trust you before, so it's impossible for me to not be on guard against you. The dual divine demon heavenly might is my final trump card." Lu Chen checked the situation of the dual divine demon set. The main changes were the mixed divine demon cultivation technique and the dual divine demon heavenly might. The mixed divine demon cultivation technique's cultivation effect had increased. Previously, it was 80 points per minute, but now it was 100 points per minute. In addition, after the mixed divine demon cultivation technique leveled up, there would be a new, exclusive effect. This was the most important thing. The heavenly might of the celestial and demonic dual heaven's wrath had increased from 3,200,000 to 5 million. The increase was huge. It was second only to the increase of the 2 heavenly might levels. In addition, the attribute extraction became faster. The divine demon heavenly might could directly determine whether the attribute extraction from the opponent's consciousness, becoming an instant skill. As for the other skills, there were changes to their cooldowns and durations. In the state of bedevilment, he would lose his mind, his speed would slow down, and the cooldown of the Holy Lotus Sword Heart would be shortened. Although nothing seemed to have changed on the surface, the emptiness of gods and demons passive had already strengthened all of these skills. Solipsistic, it's time for me to go. The emptiness of gods and demons arm. I'll leave it to you. Aren't you the arm of the emptiness of gods and demons? I'm just the manifestation of the consciousness of the emptiness of gods and demons arm. Now, you are the owner of the emptiness of gods and demons arm. It doesn't need 2 consciousnesses to control its actions, so there's no need for me to exist. Wait, do you know where the other life-reversing sets are? I'm sorry, I don't know either. That's right, without my control, those devil spirits are about to awaken. The voice became softer and softer. Your current state is too bad, you should leave this place as soon as possible. If you can reach the human king realm, remember to go inside the immortal corpse tomb to take a look. Finally, the voice disappeared. Lu Chen looked at his left arm. At this time, that exaggerated left arm had finally returned to its original state. Looking around, the sword tomb began to stir again. It seemed that the so-called devil spirits were about to awaken. Lu Chen quickly used his movement technique and quickly left the sword tomb. Damn, I suddenly have a left arm, I'm actually not used to it. Lu Chen shook his arm, feeling a little uncomfortable. Hee, I have a left arm again. I don't need to use my right hand to do things in the future. Not only did he have a left arm, but it was also one of the life-reversing sets. Lu Chen was in an extremely good mood. Soon, Lu Chen arrived in front of Chang Ming's spear. Lu Chen thought about it and decided to take the silver gallbladder with him. Chang Ming had also said that he wanted the silver gallbladder to witness his future achievements. If he didn't bring it with him, how could he witness it? Senior Chang Ming should have meant that. I didn't understand it thoroughly at the beginning. Lu Chen frowned, the more he thought about it, the more he thought so. Although the silver gallbladder did not have any spirit energy and the spear body was dim, to be able to become Chang Ming's weapon, the material itself was not ordinary. As a weapon, it should be able to be used first. Lu Chen held a few flowers in his hand and felt that it was very convenient. Right at this moment, a silver light suddenly flashed across the body of the silver gallbladder spear. The silver light flashed and disappeared, giving Lu Chen a fright. He hurriedly turned his head to look at the pile of dust on the ground. It was slightly raised, and was formed from Chang Ming's corpse. This. Senior Chang Ming, it can't be that you don't want me to take the silver gallbladder, right? Lu Chen felt his hair stand on end. The silver gallbladder flashed with another silver light. Lu Chen frowned, he did not know what the silver gallbladder was trying to express. After thinking carefully, he inserted the silver gallbladder into the ground. Forget it, Senior Chongming, let me go, I really don't dare to covet his weapon. Oh right, I'll bury Senior Chongming while I'm at it. Lu Chen moved the soil on the ground into Chongming's coffin, closed the coffin lid again, placed the coffin back in the tomb, and straightened the stone tablet. The words on the stone tablet had already been worn away by the wind, so Lu Chen used his finger to carve the words on the stone tablet. Spear God's Tomb. After burying Chongming, Lu Chen inserted the silver gallbladder into the side of the tomb and bowed a few times to Chongming's tomb. Senior Chongming, please forgive me for offending you. Please rest in peace. Lone Kuang is leaving. When Lu Chen turned around, he suddenly noticed a flash of light behind him. He turned around in surprise and discovered that the silver gallbladder had once again lit up with a silver light. Lu Chen was a little surprised. After thinking for a while, he raised his hand. The silver gallbladder actually pulled itself out of the soil and came to Lu Chen's hand. Lu Chen thought for a moment and finally understood. The meaning of the silver gallbladder was that it hoped that Lu Chen could bury its master, and Senior Chongming also hoped that he could take the silver gallbladder away. Thank you, Senior. Lu Chen bowed to Chongming's tomb again. Silver gallbladder, let's go. Not long after, Lu Chen arrived at the second district. At this time, a group of outer court disciples were surrounding and killing a gnawing beast. This beast specialized in eating corpses and was good at burrowing into the ground. This group of people were also very depressed. The group was focused on hunting demons, but in the end, a guy stood there and watched them fight. He did not snatch the kill, nor did he speak. He just watched. This feeling made people quite fearful, and he seemed to have come out from the depths of the immortal corpse tomb. They had no choice but to be wary of this guy. Perhaps because they were distracted, when they could have surrounded and killed the gnawing beast, that guy suddenly burrowed into the ground and actually ran away. But before they could react, the ground under the feet of a female disciple who came out to train with her senior brothers and sisters suddenly collapsed. Immediately after, a terrifying giant beast shot out from there. The gnawing beast actually turned around and attacked. It stood in front of the female disciple, its chest opened, and in the midst of the bloody flesh, a figure shot out. It's the puppet of the gnawing beast. Junior sister, be careful. The junior sister was also shocked. Not only did the gnawing beast appear suddenly, the scene in front of her was even more bloody and terrifying. There was actually a human corpse in its body, and it was actually its puppet. In this moment of shock, her reaction was half a beat slower. The corpse's hands tightly locked the female disciple, and pulled her towards its chest. Not good, junior sister. Damn it, quickly stop this evildoer. However, for safety, these newcomers were originally far away. At this time, the senior brothers and sisters were too late to save them. The female disciple struggled with all her might. Seeing that she was about to be pulled into the body of the gnawing beast, she suddenly saw a red figure flash by. Chapter 996. The red shadow arrived first, instantly overtaking the junior sister from the outer court. Void shattering. With a roar, Lu Chen's right fist landed on the nibbling beast's open chest. With its chest open, the nibbling beast had given up on defense. Now that someone had suddenly appeared and punched its internal organs, the damage was not high enough to cause serious damage. Unfortunately, even though Lu Chen had only activated the symbiosis of gods and demons, the damage from this punch was not low. With a boom, the nibbling beast's internal organs, including its mucous membranes, were directly shattered, and its huge body flew out. Lu Chen took advantage of the situation and flicked his spear, cutting off the puppet's arm. His figure quickly moved, and the junior sister firmly held onto it by the waist. His entire movement was very smooth, extremely elegant. Lu Chen's punch was only a casual one. Although it heavily injured the nibbling beast's internal organs, it did not kill it. However, just as the nibbling beast got up, it was already surrounded by the academy's disciples. Only death awaited it. The girl laid in Lu Chen's arms, looking at the peerless beauty in front of her. She was suddenly infatuated. Lu Chen saw that someone was restraining the nibbling beast, so he helped the girl up. "I'm sorry for offending you. Miss, are you alright?" The girl's face instantly turned red, and she lowered her head. I'm fine. Thank you for saving me." "Miss, what time is it now?" Lu Chen asked. "Ah." The girl looked up in surprise. "Previously, I was in the immortal corpse mound. I don't know what time it is today." Lu Chen said. He actually just wanted to find someone to ask about the time. Seeing that this group of people was about to kill the nibbling beast, he waited on the side. Who knew that he would suddenly encounter an unforeseen event? "You were in the immortal corpse mound." The girl's eyes revealed a trace of fear. How long did this guy stay in the immortal corpse mound? Was he a human or a ghost? However, he was her savior, and it seemed like he had no intention of attacking her, so she still replied, "Today is the year 2020 of the Origin Qiyuan calendar, November 30th, Lu Chen calculated. He had stayed in the emptiness of gods and demons for more than 3 days. If he counted the 4 days he spent on the road, he had already left the Divine Magic Academy for almost 8 days. The Soul Martial Hall should have opened long ago. Oh no! Lu Chen said anxiously. "Young master, is there something urgent?" The young lady asked tentatively. Lu Chen glanced at the girl. "Miss, do you know if Zhongxian Gu is holding a Soul Martial Hall test in the next few days?" Soul Martial Hall. Yes, the Demonic Academy's Soul Martial Hall is being tested today. It's the same day that the rankings of the other academies are updated. I heard from the instructor that he wanted to watch the Demonic Academy's dean challenge the Soul Martial Hall. Ah. When Lu Chen heard this, he became even more anxious. Their academy's Soul Martial Hall was opening today. "Miss, can you do me a favor?" The girl thought for a moment. From the looks of it, this man didn't seem like a strange demon from the immortal corpse mound. "Young master saved my life. If Qin Yu can help, of course I'm willing. Can you bring me to Zhongxian Gu?" The girl was stunned. She was a new disciple, so she obviously didn't have the qualifications to go to Zhongxian Gu. At this moment, not far away, the other disciples had already dealt with the gnawing beast. A few of the older disciples walked over and cupped their fists towards Lu Chen. "Friend, thank you for your help just now. Otherwise, Qin Yu would have been in danger. This evil creature actually dared to launch a sneak attack. I was really careless. Thank goodness you acted in time. Otherwise, if it burrowed into the ground again, it would have been really hard for us to catch it." Qin Yu saw Lu Chen's anxious face and immediately said to the elder, "Master, he wants to go to Zhongxian Gu for an urgent matter. He wants to ask for our help." "What do you think?" The elder looked at Lu Chen strangely. "Oh. Little brother, you want to go to Zhongxian Gu? Ordinary people don't have the qualifications to go to that place. I wonder why you want to go to Zhongxian Gu." At this moment, Lu Chen didn't know where Zhongxian Gu was, so he had to tell the truth. "To be honest, I'm from the Demonic Academy. I want to challenge the Soul Martial Hall, but I don't know how to get to Zhongxian Gu. Little brother, I've heard people mention the Demonic Academy recently. However, only the Dean can participate in the Soul Martial Hall. You said you want to challenge the Soul Martial Hall." The elder looked at Lu Chen strangely. Lu Chen nodded. "That's right. I'm the Dean of the Demonic Academy." The group of people were shocked. A white crane was flying towards the Cloud Immortal Mountain. Sitting on the back of the crane were the outer disciples who were hunting in the immortal corpse mound. They were the disciples of Senki Gakuen. This academy wasn't very strong. It was just an ordinary academy. After knowing Lu Chen's identity, the instructor immediately brought Lu Chen to Zhongxian-gu. Senior Jiang Yuan, can you go faster? Lu Chen stood on the back of the red-crowned crane and looked ahead anxiously. Jiang Yuan looked at Lu Chen's back. He gritted his teeth and pressed one hand on the back of the crane. Little white, immortal trail crane shadow. This was probably some kind of skill that increased the speed of the mount. The white crane's speed suddenly increased. Master, immortal trail crane shadow consumes too much spirit chi. Your spirit core was already damaged. You already used a lot of it when you took us to hunt. A disciple said to his master. It's okay. Nameless saved Qing Yu's life. Compared to that, consuming a little bit of spirit chi is nothing. Lu Chen also heard this. He couldn't bear it, but he didn't say anything to stop them. He would remember this favor. However, he had to hurry to Zhongxian-gu. More than an hour later, the red-crowned crane landed on one of the many floating mountains in Zhongxian-gu. Jiang Yuan looked very tired. Senior Jiang Yuan, thank you. It's nothing. Nameless Dean, flying is prohibited here. You need to follow the heaven-connecting lock to the second largest mountain, Baixian Mountain. From there, you need to use the heaven-connecting lock to go to Yunxian Mountain. Jiang Yuan pointed at two mountains in the distance and pointed the way for Lu Chen. Nameless Dean, if you want to go, you need to activate it now. It will take at least 2 hours to go through the heaven-connecting lock from here. However, at that moment, a rumbling sound came from Yunxian Mountain in the distance. Then, a huge building slowly rose from Yunxian Mountain. To be precise, it wasn't a building. It was a huge open platform. The surface of the platform was flat, but the base was very thick. From afar, it looked like a floating continent. It was the same for the buildings at the foot of Idler Cloud Mountain and the surrounding small mountains. Suddenly, a large number of white-clothed disciples rushed out. These were all people from Zhongxian-gu. Then, a screen appeared in the sky above Idler Cloud Mountain. On the screen, the scene on the platform was displayed. The Soul Martial Hall is open. Who's going to challenge the Soul Martial Hall? I think it's a newly established demonic academy. I heard that it's quite interesting. What's going on? Didn't they say that the dean of the demonic academy is a young man with some potential? Why is it an old man? That old man looks haggard. His footsteps are weak. It's obvious that he's disabled and seriously injured. Is he sure he wants to challenge the Soul Martial Hall? He'll probably be like many other academies. He'll be done after 1 or 2 levels. A deep voice, like a voice from beyond the heavens, rang out above the platform. Demonic Academy has chosen a target score. Soul Martial Hall Level 4. Countdown to challenge, 300 seconds. Lu Chen hurriedly looked at the platform and saw a slightly old figure slowly walking to the center of the platform. Old E. Lu Chen stared at the figure. Chapter 997. Lu Chen was very clear about Yi Tian's situation. The injuries on his body were more serious than when he lost an arm. During the big hunting competition, even in such a dangerous situation, Yi Tian did not make a move. It was not that he did not want to make a move, but he knew that it would be useless even if he did. But this time, he directly chose the 4th floor of the Soul Martial Hall as his target. And the higher the floor of the target, the better the reward. But on the other hand, after choosing a target, the Soul Martial Hall would only stop when it reached the specified floor. The students of our academy won't be interested in ordinary treasures. Lu Chen's ears rang with Yi Tian's words. That's right, how could those geniuses be interested in ordinary treasures, but the problem is. Tian, don't you know your own situation? The countdown is only 300 seconds. Tian came to the platform and looked around. Today was the day of the Academy's ranking update, so there were a lot of people. Countless people in charge of the academies were looking at him. And those Zhongxian Ge disciples, those who could come here to further their studies, were probably the most outstanding disciples of the various academies. Tian smiled slightly. In front of so many people, how could the demonic academy be looked down upon? If he was at his peak, he could at least pass 5 or 6 floors. But now? Could he pass the 4th floor? If he gave it his all, there might be hope. Nameless, that stinky brat, how is he? There are only 5 minutes left until the Seoul Martial Hall starts, he definitely won't be able to make it back. But no matter what difficulties you encounter, I believe that you won't give up easily. I also believe that you will lead the demonic academy far, far away. Fine, since you are no longer in the Divine Demon Academy, I will help you protect the dignity of the Divine Demon Academy. Everyone said that like the dean, there would be like the students. But in reality, like the dean, there would also be like the instructors. Then, let's go crazy this time. Holding the tiger-headed blade, Tian's eyes were like torches as he waited for the countdown to end. What he didn't know was that on a small mountain in the distance, a young man's eyes were wide open, and his anger was almost overflowing from his eyes. Old E, you are really messing around. Don't you know how important you are to the gods and demons? Don't you know that you are my right-hand man? Lu Qin immediately turned his head and asked Jiang Yuan, what will happen if we go directly from here? Go straight through. Jiang Yuan was stunned. He never thought that Lu Qin would ask such a question. Well, I'm not very sure. I only heard that there will be divine punishment, but I'm not sure. After all, no one has done it before, no one had ever done this before. That was because Lu Qin didn't come. Lu Qin didn't care that the information he received was extremely inaccurate. He pulled out his silver spear and said, Silver Gut, I'm sorry. I just arrived and I need you to accompany me in this Zhongxian Ge. The instructors and students of Senki Gakuen were all stunned. What did that fellow say earlier that he wanted to challenge? Zhongxian Ge. When they looked at Lu Qin again, they saw that his hair was already white. He held a spear in his hand and threw it fiercely toward the distant arena. With a boom, the ground beneath Lu Qin's feet sank into a deep pit. It was obvious how hard he threw the spear. Silver Gut was like a bolt of silver lightning, rushing toward the arena. At the same time, Lu Qin's figure moved swiftly. He had already caught up with Silver Gut with a 7 stars chasing the moon. At this moment, even if he used the Sanguine Demon wings, he probably wouldn't be able to catch up. He had to be faster than this. Lu Qin caught up with Silver Gut in an instant. Using the tip of his foot, he leaped up and used another 7 stars chasing the moon to continue chasing after Silver Gut. The Senki Gakuen girl who was saved stared with her eyes wide open. She was petrified. What the hell is this? What is that fellow doing? He wants to force his way into the Zhongxian Ge area. He's going just like that. That's a little too crazy. Jiang Yuan was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. Lunatic, he's really a lunatic. I've never seen such a crazy person. Many Zhongxian Ge disciples around also saw Lu Qin's figure. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were full of disbelief. That fellow wants to go straight to Yunxian Mountain from here. Even if he wants to die, that's not the way to do it. Who is that fellow? He's so agile. The heavenly punishment is coming soon. This is the first time I've had the chance to see the heavenly punishment of the immortals. Indeed, as soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the area between the mountains of Yunxian Mountain. The sky-connecting lock that connected the various Yunxian mountains began to shake violently. The huge chain was like a giant dragon, becoming restless. Countless people on Yunxian Mountain were shocked by the sudden change in the periphery. They looked around in confusion. What's going on? Is the heavenly punishment of the immortals activated? It can't be. How could this array be activated? Could it be that someone is flying in the Zhongxiangu area? Who would be so stupid? Quick, look over there. Everyone hurriedly looked towards the southwest, where the lightning was the most concentrated. There, a silver light was shooting towards them. From time to time, a red shadow appeared and chased after the silver light. What's that? Someone is flying with a flying Dharma treasure. No, that's not a flying Dharma treasure. He's using that weapon to land. He's relying on his own body to move over here. This is crazy. The few people in charge of Zhongxiangu narrowed their eyes slightly. Someone actually broke into Zhongxiangu. That's unheard of. Who is that fellow? Do you know him? Sengoku, that person looks familiar. He seems to be. Hiss, that's not right. How did he change his appearance? The person who spoke was Lord Yi. However, when he narrowed his eyes and looked at that figure again and again, he was a little uncertain. Lord Yi, who is he? Sengoku, this person looks a little like the director of the demonic academy. Nameless, but he doesn't seem to have a left arm. That's why I'm not sure. Nameless? Humph, so he's here for the Soul Martial Hall. However, he's so reckless. I'm afraid he doesn't know how powerful the divine punishment is. Tian also looked into the distance curiously. When he saw the red figure, his entire body trembled. Lord Yi wasn't sure who that was, but Tian was 100% sure that that person was Nameless. Only Nameless would be so crazy. It seemed that Nameless saw the countdown and rushed over without a care. Left arm. Nameless, you found the emptiness of gods and demons. That's great. But, you actually barged into the Zhongxiangu. Lu Yi, Xiao Min, and Rhubarb also saw Lu Chen. Lu Yi and Xiao Min were so excited that their eyes were brimming with tears. That's right. That person was definitely their boss. Although they didn't know what the silver light was, and didn't know how their boss's left arm was reattached, from the way this person did things, other than their boss, no one else would be so crazy. Boss is here. He's here for Tian. Lu Yi said with tears in her eyes. It's always like this. As long as it's someone that our boss cares about, he'll do whatever it takes. Xiao Min also said, if God or Buddha blocks him, he'll kill Buddha. No one can stop him. Chapter 998. The deity's heavenly punishment array had been fully activated. Countless bolts of lightning and thunder roared. The bottom of the various deities' islands suddenly cracked, and heaven-connecting chains broke free. Hundreds of heaven-connecting chains were covered in lightning, crisscrossing. These chains shuttled back and forth in the air, crisscrossing and connecting with each other. Lord Yi couldn't help but take a step forward. The first array of the deity's heavenly punishment array, Heaven-Locking Demon. How many years has it been since this array was activated? Nameless, that kid is crazy. Hundreds of thick chains suddenly tightened, and each of them rolled like a python, shrinking in range. Just the thickness of these layers of chains was over 1,000 meters. The heaven-locking demon instantly blocked Lu Chen's path. Lu Chen had no choice but to grab the silver gall bladder and rely on his wings to float in the middle of the chain array. Trespassing into the Zhongxiangu is a crime punishable by death. A grand voice resounded through the mountains of the Zhongxiangu. In the next second, hundreds of heaven-connecting chains intertwined, converging into 4 incomparably huge chains, like 4 whips, fiercely lashing out. The second array of the deity's heavenly punishment array, Deity Beating Whip. Heaven and earth rumbled, the mountains shook, and even the air vibrated. If this whip were to land, his soul would probably scatter, nameless, admit your mistake. Tian rushed to the edge of the arena and shouted at Lu Chen. However, the grand voice from before sounded again. Solipsistic, you came for the Demonic Academy's Soul Martial Hall. Unfortunately, the candidates for the Soul Martial Hall have already been selected. Even if you come, you can't change anything. However, if you can really pass the deity's heavenly punishment array before the test begins, I can make an exception and allow you to replace Tian and represent the Demonic Academy to challenge the Soul Martial Hall. If I'm not wrong, even if Tian makes it to the 4th level of the Soul Martial Hall, I'm afraid he will have to pay a heavy price. Everyone was shocked. Could the person who spoke be the Lord of the Pantheon? But who was the solipsistic he mentioned? Was that John Doe's real name? After all, there was only one person in the array. Nameless, don't worry about me. Since I chose the 4th floor of the Soul Martial Hall, I've already made up my mind. Tian roared. Lu Chen's nostrils flared. Tian was no longer just his mentor. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been able to obtain the emptiness of gods and demons. There was also the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror. If not for Tian, he would have already died under the dark spear. He had no choice but to repay this great kindness. Old E, you've been searching for it your entire life. Now, let it fight for you. Master of Zhongxian Gu, I, solipsistic, shall challenge your celestial punishment formation. As he spoke, the god-beating whip had already lashed out at Lu Chen from all directions. Lu Chen's eyes widened as he said angrily, Silver Gut, fight with me. The Silver Gut spear flashed with a silver light, just like when it was in the hands of Dark Spear. Possession of the God of War. Demon transformation. Soul and body as one. Place of death. Dragon blood boiling. 3 lives of reincarnation. Although Lu Chen didn't have a specialized spear technique, the Silver Gut obviously had its own skills. It was the spear technique used by Dark Spear. In the distance, looking at the white-haired man standing between heaven and earth, the female disciples of Senki Gakuen were already overwhelmed with emotions. A real man should be so indomitable. Daring to fight with the immortals, daring to fight with the heavens, he's really so handsome. Jiang Yuan said faintly, just this courage alone, if this person doesn't die, he can shake the heavens and earth. Lu Chen held the spear suspended between heaven and earth. With a twist of his fingers, the body of the spear started to roll and gradually emitted black mist. When Dark Spear used it, the body of the spear emitted green flames. But in the hands of Lu Chen's original spiritual energy was the primal chaos spiritual energy, which didn't have the characteristics of the fire element. In the end, it changed into a different appearance. The 4 god-beating whips shook the heavens and earth, and had already attacked. Emptiness of gods and demons, void attack. Lu Chen roared as his left arm swelled up, pushing away the wild blood sword god. Lu Chen's original ferocious face. His arm. That is. What is that? Emptiness of gods and demons. Even many of the Dean-level experts might not know about the emptiness of gods and demons. Is that his original body? Or is it a transformation-type skill? But how can a transformation skill only change one arm? Tian was dumbfounded. That was what he had been searching for his entire life. Emptiness of gods and demons. Nameless had indeed obtained it. At this moment, he felt a sense of loss, but also a sense of relief. Nameless, I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Zhongxian Gu and the other Sengoku could not help but frown and squint their eyes. Emptiness of gods and demons arm. That guy actually obtained the emptiness of gods and demons arm. How is that possible? Why did the emptiness of gods and demons arm recognize him as its master? This guy, the four god-beating whips carried the power to destroy the heavens and earth as Lu Chen held the spear in his left hand and roared. Celestial Devil Star Physique. Bedevilment. Lu Chen's eyes were red, he had already entered the bedevilment state. Whoever blocks me today, kill. Way of the spear, spear like shooting stars. Way of the spear, Empyrean spear. After saying that, Lu Chen's figure transformed into a crimson ray of light and crashed into one of the god-beating whips. With a loud boom, the heavens and earth shook, the mountains were on the verge of collapsing. However, in the blink of an eye, the gigantic god-beating whip was forcibly changed direction and lashed towards the other three god-beating whips. At the same time, the red shadow was also sent flying and was instantly slapped towards the surrounding sky-sealing demon matrix. Lord Yi squinted his eyes slightly. Nameless was sent flying in the direction of the Soul Marshal Hall. Did that guy purposely use the force to close the distance? However, Lord Yi still had reason to believe that Nameless was not having a good time. Clashing head-on with the god-beating whips was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. If the damage of a god-beating whip was quantified by the damage of the fourth heaven, it would be at least tens of billions. In front of everyone, the saintly celestial punishment array was fully activated and the four god-beating whips attacked one after another. Who could withstand that? However, if that guy could forcefully change the direction of the god-beating whips, how powerful would his attack be? At the same time, Lu Chen had already retreated 1,000 meters and was about to crash into the sky-sealing demon array of the sky-connecting lock. However, at this moment, he suddenly turned around. 9 void steps. He could still move and use his movement technique. The sky-sealing demon array started to spin rapidly and a large number of chains intertwined in front of him to form a complicated network of lightning. Lu Chen's eyes were wide open and he constantly changed his movement technique. His figure shuttled through the tiny gaps between the chains. Is this guy not injured? Did the god-beating whip not hurt him? Impossible. At the side, Mi Gong walked to Lord Ye's side. Even you and I would not be able to escape unscathed if we clashed head-on with the god-beating whip. However, looking at his movement technique, it seems like he is not affected at all. Yi Nan, how is this possible? Lord Yi shook his head. I don't know either. First, he used one of the god-beating whips to block the other three. At the same time, he used the force to increase the distance between him and the god-beating whips. Then, he forcefully broke through the sky-sealing demon array in one go. In such an adverse situation, he can still maintain such a clear mind. This solipsistic guy is really scary. Chapter 999. Heavenly Lightning Lock Demon. Between the chains, the electric charge was connected, making Lu Chen, who was already unable to find a way out, even more desperate. Previously, he was only able to fly here because of the god-beating whip strength. But if he stopped, without a relay point, his mobility would be greatly reduced. Lu Chen only had one thought in his mind. He had to force his way through. Behind him, the god-beating whip waved again. Lu Chen saw that his path was blocked, and he angrily shouted, "Void shattering." Shattering the stars had a miraculous effect on arrays and domains. Moreover, this punch was used by the emptiness of gods and demons. It was supplied with chaotic spiritual energy, so it was not afraid of any elemental attacks. With a boom, the entire heavenly lock demon array shook, emitting the sound of metal colliding. However, the heavenly lock demon array did not break after one strike. Way of the spear, shooting star spear. Lu Chen thrust out his spear. Borrowing the residual force from the recoil, Lu Chen shot forward. The tip of the spear collided with the heavenly lock. For a moment, sparks flew everywhere, and the surrounding chains pressed down. Lu Chen's face was ferocious. Buddha body doppelganger. Void shattering triple attack. Break for me. The three doppelgangers simultaneously used their left arms to shatter the void. In an instant, the sky shook. There's a gap. Lu Chen immediately discovered that after the spiritual energy in the array became unstable, a gap had appeared. However, this gap was rapidly healing. Lord Yi frowned. He actually managed to create a gap. Unfortunately, this array is called the Heavenly Lock Demon Array. How could it be so easy for you to break through? Mei Gong said with his hands behind his back. Nameless used the aftershock to create a gap in the Heavenly Lock Demon Array. This guy's attack is also very frightening. But now, his speed has decreased. Before the Heavenly Lock Demon Array repairs itself, he won't be able to escape. And, the God-beating whip is the core of the Immortal Heaven Punishment Array. Although he managed to avoid the God-beating whip for the time being, it's still a step away. It's a pity. But at this moment, Lu Chen's main body suddenly stepped on one of the doppelgangers. 9 void steps. Damn, there's such a move. That fellow. Just a moment ago, Mi Gong still looked as though he was passing judgment on the world, but at this moment, his eyes were already widened in shock. That fellow has really utilized all of the conditions that he can exploit to the extreme. Lord Yi could not help but shake his head. Solipsistic. You are the strongest newcomer in prosperous Source Continent in recent years. But you became the director of the Demonic Academy. At this moment, everyone became nervous. Could Nameless pass through the Immortal's Heavenly Punishment Formation? A red light flashed, and in the next second, Lu Chen landed firmly on the Soul Martial Hall's challenge arena. Nameless. Yi Tian hurried over. Lu Chen glanced at the countdown. There were only a dozen seconds left. If he hadn't forced his way in, it would have been too late. Lu Chen stood up with the help of Old Yi. He looked at the crisscrossing heaven-connecting chains behind him and said loudly, I have already passed through the Heavenly Punishment Formation. You have to fulfill your promise. This time, I will take on the challenge of the Soul Martial Hall. Nameless. You have already. Yi Tian looked at Lu Chen anxiously. Lu Chen's current situation was not good. His breathing was rapid, and his face was pale. Lu Chen looked at Yi Tian. I will not watch you take the risk. But. Before Yi Tian could speak, Lu Chen interrupted him. Old Yi, don't say any more. This is my duty. The majestic voice came from the sky. Solipsistic, you have indeed obtained the emptiness of God's and demons' arm. Otherwise, you would not have been able to block the God-striking whip. Well, since I have already promised you, I will fulfill my promise. This time, you will take on the challenge of the Soul Martial Hall. Moreover, I will give you 3 days to recover. After 3 days, you will take on the challenge again. Lu Chen was rather surprised. The person who spoke should be the pavilion master of Zhongxian Gu. He did not expect him to give him time to recover. Lu Chen immediately cupped his fists. Thank you, pavilion master. You don't have to thank me. You fought for this opportunity yourself. Disciples of Zhongxian Gu, listen up. Within 3 days, repair the heaven-connecting chains. As for the rest of you, if you want to stay in Zhongxian Gu and watch Solipsistic take on the challenge, you can go to the various immortal islands temporarily. After 3 days, Solipsistic will take on the challenge again. After that, the voice no longer sounded. Zhongxian Gu was really stingy. He left so many people here, but did not provide them with food or lodging. These deans could only cultivate and wait on the various immortal islands. Yi Tian sent a telepathic message to a sea of clouds. Not only did Nameless return, but the pavilion master of Zhongxian Gu also gave them 3 more days to rest. Finally, one of the 2 boulders in his heart could be lifted. Long Xiang sized up Lu Chen's left arm. Dean, why did your left arm become smaller again? Yeah, Dean. I still think that the previous arm was more domineering. Why don't you change it again? Saiji said. Lu Chen was speechless. Sure enough, the TV shows were all lies. Changing once ruined his wild blood sword god. This fashion should be out of print. Anyway, he did not see anyone else wearing it along the way. Now, his left sleeve was gone. What's there to change? If you buy me new clothes, I'll change it for you to see. Lu Chen said unhappily. Right, where's my sword? Lu Chen looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi hurriedly took out the limitless sword and handed it to Lu Chen. Boss, you have a new weapon. Do you want to give it to Limitless? Lu Chen shook his head. This spear was left behind by a senior. Moreover, I used it quite well just now. Keep it with you. The limitless sword and the silver gallbladder stood beside Lu Chen at the same time. The two weapons actually trembled slightly at the same time. Lu Chen hurriedly grabbed the two weapons. Hey, what are you two doing? We're all on the same side, okay? These two guys were actually not convinced of each other's strength. It was reasonable to say that the limitless divine demon was stronger. However, the silver gallbladder was called the silver gallbladder. It was courageous, but it wasn't limitless divine demon. Tian looked at the two weapons in Lu Chen's hands strangely. Nameless. These two weapons, don't tell me they both have spirits. Lu Chen thought for a moment and decided to hide this matter. He hurriedly changed the topic. It should be just the pressure from the weapons. Oh, right. Old E, you just contacted Old Hai. How's Li Wei doing? They haven't come out yet. Lu Chen frowned. Once the matter at the Seoul Martial Hall was over, he had to hurry back to take a look. Old E, your pure yang Bagua mirror. Lu Chen handed the Bagua mirror to Tian. Tian smiled slightly. I'll give it to you. It will be more useful if it follows you. These old bones of mine can't fight or move. They'll only collect dust. Lu Chen smiled. Old E, you weren't like this just now. You actually set your sights on the 4th floor in one go. I think that as long as your injuries are healed, your path might not be over yet. This, Lu Chen smiled. Who knows, there might be some treasure in the Seoul Martial Hall that suits you. I wasn't confident before, but now. Lu Chen looked at his left arm and smiled. The meaning in his eyes was self-evident. You actually want me to rest? Then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Chen revealed a sinister smile. This time, if I don't let Zhongxian Gu suffer a huge loss, then I'll have come here for nothing. Chapter 1000. Over the past few days, the deans had been discussing Lu Chen more and more. His valiant left arm, his forceful charge into the Immortal's heavenly punishment array, and his ability to make the Zhongxiangu Pavilion Master make an exception and postpone the Seoul Martial Hall. All of these were enough to show that this young man was not simple. Because of this, although the ranking update had been completed, most people chose to stay and watch the competition. How many levels do you think that Solipsistic can pass? If you ask me, if he's in his best condition, I estimate that he can pass around 6 levels. Old deans like us don't have strong combat abilities, so we can only pass around 3 levels. Some of the young reserve deans of the big academies can probably pass 4 or 5 levels. Solipsistic strength is indeed astonishing, but that's explosive power, not endurance. I heard that his body is very weak, so he's not good at prolonged battles. Endurance is the most important part of the Seoul Martial Hall's test. That's right. 3 days of rest can only recover 10 minutes of soul-body unification. Plus, he has a chronic illness. I think it's difficult for him to pass 6 levels, maybe 5. After all, he's only a 1-star great cultivator. Without soul-body unification, his strength is limited. You have to know that the main body is the current stage's main combat power. I think he can last until the 5th level at most. All the big academies were discussing Lu Chen's future results. These old deans were also very insightful. They were not blinded by Lu Chen's stunning performance when he broke through the array. They analyzed Lu Chen's strengths and weaknesses in a comprehensive manner. Zhongxiangu Heavenly Immortal Palace. Lord Yi placed a set of information in front of an old man. Mabe Immortal King, this is the information we collected about solipsistic. The old man lowered his eyes and looked at the stack of information. 3rd Firmament, Military Rank. Militia. 4th Firmament, Immortal Army Rank. Civilian. 5th Firmament, Highest Rank. 1-star Great Cultivator. Are you sure this information is related to this solipsistic? Mabe's eyes were filled with confusion. Lord Yi nodded. Sengoku. It's confirmed to be solipsistic information. When I received the information today, I was a little surprised. It's hard to imagine that a guy with such strength would have such mediocre performance in the past. But Sengoku, please read on. Mabe Immortal King flipped to the next page. In the 3rd heavens, he would fight against the geniuses of the myriad races as a militia. From then on, he would intimidate the myriad races and redraw the territory of the 3rd heavens, setting new rules for the 3rd heavens. 4th heaven, dispelling the curse of the origami, rescuing hundreds of thousands of people trapped in the wilderness tribe, killing the most troublesome heavenly domain bosses of the 4th heaven, extreme Yin nether glow and extreme Yang illumination. After that, he faced the attacks of hundreds of thousands of people alone without taking any damage. Resetting the rules of the 4th heavens, abolishing the 4th heavens and damaging the corporeal body. 5th heaven, complete the immortal level hidden mission, restart the 5th heaven. Reverse the destiny, kill the demonic beast sovereign, stop the demonic beast army from massacring the 5th heaven, and redraw the territory of the 5th heaven, creating the 8th kingdom. This guy. Wherever he goes, he'll wipe out everything. This time, Sengoku's expression finally changed. Although he had reached the 6th celestial layer and knew that there were many low-level heavenly domains that existed in different spaces, this did not negate Lone Tyrant's strength. At the very least, in his world, Lone Tyrant was an invincible existence. I've seen countless geniuses, but to be able to do this, it's really rare, Lord Yi nodded. This solipsistic, although arrogant, he does have the qualifications to be arrogant. Moreover, he doesn't seem to care about these levels. He doesn't pursue the heavenly marshal position, nor does he pursue the position of great heavenly general. I even suspect that if not for the fact that the cultivation level is linked to spiritual energy, he wouldn't even bother to raise his cultivation level. Mabe narrowed his eyes. This guy. It seems that ignoring the rules has always been his style. Lord Yi thought for a while and asked, Sengoku, what do you mean? Do you know why the Venerable Immortal delayed for 3 days to let Solipsistic challenge the Soul Martial Hall? This junior does not know the Venerable Immortal's intention. Lord Yi answered. Sengoku said indifferently. This person is currently willing to abide by the Zhongxian Ji's rules, but it's not hard to guess what will happen in the future from his usual style. He's not the kind of person who is willing to live by the rules, he's destined to become the one who sets the rules. I remember that the Soul Martial Hall is actually the Twin Palace. I'm guessing that in tomorrow's Soul Martial Hall, the Venerable Immortal wants to activate the Twin Soul Martial Hall. Lord Ye's eyes widened. Twin Soul Martial Hall. The difficulty is at least twice as high. Could it be that the Venerable Immortal wants to? That's right, if I can't control it, then I can only strangle it. Sengoku's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. After 3 days of rest, Lu Chen's physical strength had completely recovered. There were only 10 minutes left until the soul-body unification. Cloud Immortal Mountain once again raised a huge platform, but this time, the one who walked onto the stage was no longer Yi Tian, but Lu Chen. Nameless, do your best. Dean, at least 6 levels. Get more good stuff for those little brats. Lu Chen smiled at his companions and walked onto the stage. Senki Gakuen, Jiang Yuan, and the others found their respective deans and were fortunate enough to stay behind to watch the battle. Junior sister saw Lu Chen walk onto the stage and couldn't help but feel nervous. Junior sister, don't tell me you've fallen for Nameless. Look at how nervous you are, it's even more exaggerated than watching a senior brother compete. A male disciple said. None of your business. The girl pouted. It wasn't until the voice in the sky that the crowd quieted down. Solipsistic, are you ready? I'm ready. Lu Chen said indifferently. Do you have a target score? When a target score was set, when the corresponding level was reached, additional rewards would be given. Of course, after the target score was set, the difficulty of the Soul Martial Hall would also increase until the corresponding level was reached. There would be no stops in between. Lu Chen already knew this. Level 6, Lu Chen said directly. This caused a commotion outside the arena. He said he has to reach level 6 at least. This guy is too confident. I think level 6 is his limit. Who would set a target at the limit? It's too dangerous. I'm afraid he's underestimating the Soul Martial Hall. The voice sounded again. Alright, Demonic Academy's target is level 6 of the Soul Martial Hall. Entering countdown of 600 seconds. Why is the preparation time 600 seconds? Someone immediately questioned. Isn't it 300 seconds? Who prepares for 600 seconds? Strange. It wasn't until a huge countdown appeared above the platform that the crowd understood. Twin Soul Martial Hall, countdown to activation, 599 seconds, what? Twin Soul Martial Hall. This is the Twin Soul Martial Hall. Dean, what is the Twin Soul Martial Hall? Jiang Yuan asked his dean. Although Senki Gakuen wasn't famous, the dean wasn't young and knew a lot of things. The old dean said, the opponents in the Soul Martial Hall are formed by the powerful fighting souls left behind by past experts. As everyone knows, after the main body of the fighting soul dies, the fighting soul will gradually disappear. It's just that certain methods can be used to preserve these fighting souls. I know this, but the question is, what is the Twin Soul Martial Hall? The Twin Soul Martial Hall is formed by 2 fighting souls. One is the original fighting soul, and the other is another fighting soul formed after the fighting soul split. Split fighting souls are extremely rare. They don't have self-awareness, but they have combat thinking abilities that are beyond common sense. They will instinctively unleash their combat strength to the extreme. And during the process of splitting, they will form some incredible abilities. In short, at the same level, the chances of winning against a split fighting soul are almost zero. What? Why haven't we encountered the Twin Soul Martial Hall before? I don't know. I've only heard about it. I didn't expect Zhongxian Gu to open the Twin Soul Martial Hall today. That solipsistic is probably going to die in this Soul Martial Hall. Chapter 1001. Lu Chen also faintly felt that something was wrong. Tian's preparation time was 300 seconds last time. He remembered it clearly, but now it was 600 seconds for him. It was very likely that he and Tian didn't challenge the same Soul Martial Hall. Just from the preparation time for the Soul Martial Hall's opening, he already knew that there was a difference in difficulty. You didn't even inform me before and directly increased the difficulty. Lu Chen coldly snorted. It seemed that Zhongxian Gu wasn't really going to be polite to him. Very well, you want to play me to death. Lu Chen's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Zhongxian Gu, let's wait and see. No matter what, Lu Chen already had no way out. Taking advantage of the 10 minutes of preparation time, Lu Chen closed his eyes and rested, waiting for the Soul Martial Hall to open. 10 minutes, and seconds passed. Everyone's eyes were focused on that figure. With a ding sound, the Soul Martial Hall's first hall trial began. In the four corners of the arena, 8 balls of spirit energy revolved and condensed, finally forming 8 figures. Why are there 8? Shouldn't there be 4 war souls in the first hall? The opponents are twice as many as the average Soul Martial Hall. Is there something wrong with the Soul Martial Hall? Even many deans didn't know of the existence of the twin Soul Martial Hall. Seeing the double number of enemies, their eyes were filled with shock. Is this the twin Soul Martial Hall? The legendary twin Soul Martial Hall. Among the 8 war souls, 4 of them looked exactly the same as the other 4. However, the aura that they exuded was completely different. Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. The opponent for the first hall trial was 1-star Emperor Xiu. Lu Chen coldly snorted. 8 1-star Emperor Xiu. The bell rang, and the 8 war souls pounced on Lu Chen at the same time. Heavenly Eye. Lu Chen activated his Heavenly Eye. Battle souls that look the same but have different elemental attributes. The intensity of the spiritual energy they emit is also different. Lu Chen quickly discovered the problem. Looks like Zhongxian Gu used some special method to extract another battle soul from an existing one. This kind of ability is indeed terrifying in a real battle. Lu Chen snorted when he saw the 8 war spirits charging towards him with weapons in their hands. 1-star Emperor Xiu, you're still too weak. Divine Demon Symbiosis. With a bang, Lu Chen's body erupted with a ferocious spiritual energy. Immediately, his long hair turned white and fluttered in the wind. Oh my god, those ears are so cute. Junior sister held her hands in front of her chest, completely unaware of the predicament Lu Chen was in. She was only attracted by the pair of fox ears. The senior brother beside her shook his head helplessly. Indeed, a woman who had lost her mind was too scary. Speaking of which, he did not know how Nameless was going to deal with the current adversity. 8 1-star Emperor Xiu. Their levels are much higher than Nameless, and they have twin battle souls. Just the trial of the first hall alone is much more difficult than before. Sigh, I'm afraid that Zhongxian Gu is deliberately targeting Nameless, Jiang Yuan said. Ol Amos hurriedly gestured for him to keep quiet. Don't talk nonsense. This is Zhongxian Gu. Jiang Yuan hurriedly lowered his head, but his eyes were still fixed on the battlefield. Nameless, let's see if you can last until the 6th hall. On the battlefield, Lu Chen was surrounded by enemies. Murderous intent appeared on his face as he activated many enhancement effects. Currently, he only kept Soul Body as 1, Divine Demon Astral Body, Bedevilment, and Divine Demon Dual Heaven's Might. He activated all other enhancement skills. After activating them, Lu Chen was like a red-clothed, white-haired divine demon. Emptiness of Gods and Demons Arm. His left arm quickly demonized. That human arm seemed to have turned into a huge and powerful demon arm in an instant. Emptiness of Gods and Demons Arm. Void Attack. Void Break. Void Attack was a type of attack state. It could only unleash its strongest power when combined with certain skills. The best choice was obviously the Void Break, which had extremely high attack power. The entire space shook violently. This punch landed in the void, but it was as if it had hit a solid object, causing a violent tremor. Everyone's eardrums were shaken by a dull sound, until their ears were ringing. Immediately after, the 8 1-star Emperor Xiu war souls were instantly shattered before they could even get close to Lu Chen. The 8 1-star Emperor Xiu war souls were instantly killed before they could even get close to Lu Chen. The whole place was terrifyingly quiet. This is too easy. I know he's strong, but the 8 1-star Emperor Xiu war souls were much higher in level than him. In the end, they didn't even have a chance to get close to him. This is a bit too much. What the hell is that emptiness of gods and demons arm? In other words, one-star Emperor Xiao War Souls didn't even have a chance to fight against the solipsistic War Souls. Tian took a deep breath. Not only did that guy obtain the emptiness of gods and demons arm, but he could also use the emptiness of gods and demons arm. So strong, this is too much. Lu Yi War Souls wasn't too shocked. After all, no one knew Lu Chen's true strength better than she did. Boss is still conserving his energy, Lu Yi War Souls said. If he could kill them instantly, he would definitely choose to do so. Long Xiang, who was standing at the side, had a look of fear on his face. I understand the logic, but the problem is that this method of instant killing is a little terrifying. What twin fighting souls? You won't even get a chance to get close to me. What's the use of that? A Zongxian good disciple hovered in the air. He was also stunned for a while. It took him a while to remember that he needed to report his results. He hurriedly said, "The first trial has ended. Time taken. 0.7 seconds. 0.7 seconds. He suddenly realized that this result seemed a little fake. After checking it again, he realized that it was this result. Below the stage, a group of people had gone crazy. Are you kidding me? 0.7 seconds. Wouldn't it end as soon as it started? This is the fastest time in history, right? It's just that the Seoul Martial Hall doesn't have a time ranking. Otherwise, how could this result be surpassed? Is that solipsistic really here to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall? Why do I feel like he's here to cause trouble? The disciple announced loudly, the second hall will be opened in 3 seconds. Wow, the preparation time is longer than the time taken to pass the first floor. This is simply unheard of. The Demonic Academy. It seems like we need to interact more with them in the future. Since the dean is already like this, the students there shouldn't be weak. Below the stage, there was an uproar. Only Lu Chen remained unmoved. He stood majestically in the middle of the stage with his eyes slightly closed. The 3 seconds of rest had to be utilized to the maximum. In the second hall, there were 16 two-star Theo the Great. Emptiness of gods and demons arm. Void attack. Void break. The twin fighting souls that were blown apart didn't have a chance to perform. 16 wisps of spiritual energy dissipated into the air. 16 two-star Theo the Great's fighting souls were blown apart by Lu Chen's punch. I can't watch this anymore. Really? One of the deans said, when I challenged the second hall, 8 fighting souls fought fiercely. How could they be defeated in a second by his punch? No, he hasn't even moved a single step. The fighting souls didn't even have a chance to get close to him. What's the point of fighting? Shattering the spiritual core with a single punch. Is this even giving others a chance? I feel that this doesn't show a person's true fighting skills. It's a form of cheating. This isn't fair. Chapter 1002. The announcing disciple's voice was trembling. The second hall has ended. Time used 0.5 seconds, it was even shorter than the first hall by 0.2 seconds. It seemed like the solipsistic had gotten used to the rhythm and was more decisive in his attacks. 1-star Emperor Xiao and 2-star Theo the Great didn't even have a chance to get close. They were killed by that guy with a single punch. Dean, didn't you say that the twin fighting souls were very strong? I did say that, but that guy didn't give the fighting souls a chance to attack. What can I do? The dean explained anxiously. Among the crowd, Lord Yi and Mi Gong had not spoken for a few seconds. Only 4 to 5 seconds had passed since the Seoul Martial Hall had opened. The emptiness of gods and demons' arm is so overbearing. No, it's not the emptiness of gods and demons' arms problem. It's the nameless attack. Lord Yi shook his head and said, the emptiness of God's and demons' arm strength depends on the user's ability. The solipsistic was able to fight evenly with the God-beating whip, so you can imagine how strong his attacks are. Combined with the emptiness of God's and demons' arms attacks, it's hard to imagine. We still underestimated his battle strength. What stamina consumption? Did you see him move? One punch, one haul. What stamina consumption? The third haul, this is the third haul. This hall is filled with 3-star Theo the Great. There are a total of 16 fighting souls. No, the twin hall has 32 fighting souls. This hall won't be easy to pass. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Soul Martial Hall's training ground. Emptiness of God's and demons' arm. Void attack. Void break. One punch, and 31 fighting souls were destroyed. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. As expected, this hall was going to be a little difficult. One fighting soul was still alive after his punch. That fighting soul was stunned. 32 fighting souls had appeared at the same time, so why was he the only one left? What happened to the ganging up on him? Way of the Spear, Shooting Star Spear. Lu Chen appeared in front of the war spirit in a flash. Star shattering. The war soul reacted quickly and was about to dodge. You want to run? I am all ears. Lu Chen seemed to have predicted this. At the same time, his right hand made a grabbing motion. The war soul was caught off guard and was directly controlled by Lu Chen. At this moment, the shattered star had been connected. Although this war soul did not die under the shattered void because of its hard shell, it did not have much HP left. It was easily killed by Lu Chen's spear, third haul completed in 1.6 seconds. Fuck, it's finally over 1 second. One punch to kill 31 people, does this guy still have points? He took less than 3 seconds to clear all 3 levels. Sigh, look at the solipsistic students, and look at the students of our academy. The difference is like heaven and earth. If I had discovered him earlier, I would have dragged him to our academy even if I had to die. Don't think about it, he is now the dean. His status is on the same level as us. Don't worry, the key is not the first few levels. The main thing is his performance later. Don't forget that he has internal injuries, whether he can hold on or not is the key. Yi Tian shook his head and sighed. He was really old. He was prepared to fight to the death, but he only dared to aim for the 4th level. However, with Nameless' current strength, passing the 4th level would be like child's play. This was the twin soul martial hall with double war souls. As long as Nameless was given some time, it was inevitable that he would surpass his peak. We are about to reach the 4th hall, Nameless has to be careful. Yi Tian said worriedly. His physical strength was his weakness. It was okay to kill in an instant at the beginning, but if he could not kill in an instant at the end, his weakness would be exposed. The target of the 6th level. As the level of the war souls increases, their methods will become more complicated. It will be difficult to kill them in an instant. Especially from the 5th hall onwards, the strength of the war souls will be the strongest among those of the same level. The difficulty of the battle will increase sharply, so I only dare to aim for the 4th hall. Hearing Yi Tian's analysis, Little Green and Xiao Min could not help but feel nervous. It seemed that it was still too early to say whether they would be able to pass the level successfully. The opening of the 4th hall, 64 war souls, all of which were at the level of the 4-star Theo the Great, 32 of which were split war souls. Emptiness of God's and demons' arm. Void attack. Void break. Lu Chen repeated the same trick. However, the actual combat strength of this batch of war souls was far beyond the previous batch of war souls. When Lu Chen made his move, the war souls reacted in time. There were all kinds of shields, astral bodies, defense enhancement skills, and movement skills. The 64 war souls all showed their remarkable abilities. Finally, the situation of a one-hit kill did not happen. Finally, he won't be able to pass the level easily this time. I feel much better. Of course, Lu Chen's punch was not all for naught. Apart from a few war souls that completely avoided Lu Chen's attack, most of the war souls were injured to varying degrees. However, these injuries could not stop the war souls from besieging Lu Chen. Dozens of war souls, including long-range and close-range war souls and puppet battle pets, pounced on Lu Chen from all directions. Oh no, even if he wins this round, Nameless will consume a lot of energy. It will be troublesome for him in the next 5 or 6 levels. Saiji exclaimed. However, Lu Chen did not move. In the face of such a large number of attacks, he gently raised his left arm and said calmly, "Soul and body as one. Void Guard." He has activated the soul and body as one. He has activated the soul and body as one so early. He only has 10 minutes to activate the soul and body as one. Can he make it to the 6th level? Yi Tian's brows were tightly knitted. He finally understood Lu Chen's intention. Compared to the duration of the soul and body as one, Nameless is more concerned about the consumption of his energy. He is prone to fatigue, so he cannot fight for a long time. Even if Nameless has 100 hours to activate the soul and body as one, it will be useless if he does not have enough energy to last until then. Saiji looked pleased. If that is the case, the Dean will still be limited by the consumption of his energy. On the battlefield, a cloud of black mist surrounded Lu Chen. A large number of skills landed on the black mist, sending out waves of spiritual energy. The 4-star Theo the Great was not to be underestimated, not to mention when so many people were attacking him at the same time. However, Void Guard's defense was impregnable. No matter how these skills attacked, no one could break through Lu Chen's defense. It was equivalent to a 50 billion defense shield. As long as one attack could not break it, this shield would remain. Therefore, no matter how many attacks there were, as long as they did not exceed 50 billion, they would not be a threat to Lu Chen. Just as the fighting souls were attacking the cloud of black mist, a roar erupted from the black mist. Tiger descends the mountain. Suppressive fire. From the black mist, a large number of spiritual energy cannonballs were fired at the fighting souls. However, these fighting souls reacted very quickly. Even if the spiritual energy cannonballs had the ability to jump through space, if there were no other skills to restrict them, it would be difficult for the cannonballs to hit these super powerhouses at the level of Theo the Great. These fighting souls are not to be trifled with. It is difficult to hit them directly with spiritual energy cannonballs. The 4-star Theo the Great's strength is enough to dodge these spiritual energy cannonballs. Solipsistic is overconfident this time. At this moment, Lu Chen instantly withdrew his Void Guard defense and punched out. Void Attack. Void Break. With the combination of soul and body, the power of this punch increased exponentially. The other fighting souls were dodging the spiritual energy cannonballs, but they did not expect that it was just Lu Chen's feint. The real move had only just arrived. With a loud bang, the entire battlefield became quiet. Looking at the fighting souls dissipating in the form of spiritual energy, Lu Chen looked at the clouds and snorted, "Could your Zongxian Ji's soul martial hall be at this level?" Countless deans who were watching the battle could not help but widen their eyes. Solipsistic actually provoked the pavilion master of Zongxian Gu. Chapter 1003. Nameless. A few Sengoku disciples from Zongxian Gu could not hold themselves back. This person is really arrogant to the extreme. Not only did he barge into our celestial heavenly punishment array, he even dared to speak so arrogantly to the celestial sovereign. The disciples of Zongxian Gu on the various celestial islands were even more agitated. Who does he think he is? How dare he look down on our Zongxian Gu? Zhongxian Gu has persevered for thousands of years. He's just a lower house dean, yet he dares to speak to the celestial sovereign like that. He really doesn't know his place. The voice from above the clouds suddenly rang out. Zhongxian Ge's pavilion master actually responded to Lu Chen. Solipsistic, you've only passed the 4th level. Don't forget, your goal is the 6th level. It won't be too late to talk about it after you've passed the 6th level. Lu Chen smiled slightly. Then why aren't you hurrying up? My hands are getting cold as I fight. The group of Zhongxian Gu disciples were so angry that they almost vomited blood. The celestial sovereign had appeared, yet this guy did not restrain himself at all. Instead, he became even more arrogant. Solipsistic, don't forget that your demonic academy is still under the management of Zhongxian Gu. You think you can be so arrogant after passing the 4th level of the Soul Martial Hall? I'm not afraid to tell you that any Zhongxian Gu disciple can easily pass the 4th level of the Soul Martial Hall. Lu Chen looked at the Zhongxian Gu disciples who were yelling at him and raised his eyebrows slightly. Are you talking about the easy difficulty of the Soul Martial Hall? The group of disciples immediately shut up. It was not that they could not pass the twin Soul Martial Hall. Solipsistic's meaning was clearly that Zhongxian Gu had adjusted the difficulty of the twin Soul Martial Hall without informing him. From this point alone, the truth was right in front of their eyes. It was Zhongxian Gu who had ulterior motives. In fact, if it weren't for Zhongxian Ge's despicable methods, Lu Chen might still have a good impression of Zhongxian Gu. But now, it was proven that Zhongxian Gu wasn't really friendly to him. He even had hidden killing intent. Lu Chen even thought that the secret passage in the demonic academy might really be related to Zhongxian Gu. They were not as honorable as they appeared to be. Soon, the 5th floor of the Soul Martial Hall opened. The 5th palace, the Divine General Palace, opens. Divine General Palace? Lu Chen coldly snorted. It seemed that starting from the 5th palace, it had actually started to become famous. I hope I won't be so bored. The 5-star Theo the Great and the split twin soul warriors made a total of 128 warrior souls. These 128 warrior souls gave off a different feeling than the previous warrior souls. Each of them had a calm gaze and a calm demeanor. With one look, one could tell that these warrior souls were once people who had experienced hundreds of battles. Zhongxian Gu will definitely not let Solipsistic pass the 6th floor of the Soul Martial Hall so easily. Looks like, the real battle has begun. However, this time, Lu Chen's battle plan had already changed. Above Theo the Great, every floor had a huge increase in strength. The difference between 1-star Emperor Xiu and 1-star Emperor Xiu could be hundreds of thousands of spiritual energy. The most important thing was that during the long period of time when they increased their cultivation level, they experienced more battles and were stronger. The accumulated experience, equipment, and attributes were all too different. In the academy, under the situation of having the same combat ability, a 1-star difference was enough to create a crushing advantage. Previously, many warrior souls of the 4-star Theo the Great had already blocked Lu Chen's breaking the void. This time, it would be very difficult to rely on breaking the void to instantly kill Lu Chen. Kill! The warrior soul's killing intent surged. Iron-blooded Berserker Realm. Golden Armor Realm. Battle Pet Blood-soaked Realm. More than 100 5-star warrior souls attacked at the same time. Countless sword auras, talismans, and magic balls were launched. The melee fighters and various divine beast battle pets, spirits, and high-level puppets flashed to Lu Chen's side in an instant. Lu Chen snorted coldly. Demon Clone. After Lu Chen came to the 6th floor, he had been in a broken arm state and had not used most of his skills. After the arm was reattached, although he was still tired, all of Lu Chen's skills had been unsealed. Clones after clones. Lu Chen suddenly had many Lu Chen around him. The only regret was that the clones did not inherit the emptiness of gods and demons' arm. The clones quickly rushed to the enemy army, while Lu Chen's original body stretched out both hands and slowly injected spiritual energy into the space in front of him. It's a testing space. Draco widened his eyes in horror. The purpose of those clones was to buy time for the original body. What testing space? That's an ideal type skill. Do you really think it's just for testing? Tian said. His eyes were also full of shock. That guy, is he finally going to use this skill in a real battle? Nameless ideal type skills required spiritual energy to be used for the first time. After that, they could form a system of their own. Judging from the current situation, it was indeed the most suitable skill. However, to use this skill, it required a certain amount of time to prepare. At this moment, he was facing 5-star Theo the Great level super experts. The battle between experts was a matter of seconds. Would those nameless clones be able to hold on for a few seconds? Originally, everyone thought that the solipsistic clones were only trying to buy time for the original body. However, they soon discovered the horror of those clones. Every clone inherited the effects of combo, critical hit, lifesteal, and so on. They all had extremely strong combat power. What are the attributes of the solipsistic war soul? How are his clones so strong? 5 combo? How is this possible? Every attack is a 5 combo. A clone can defeat a 5-star Theo the Great war soul in one move. This can't be true. His clones are indeed strong. However, I don't think they can stop those 5-star Theo the Great war souls. Lu Yi and Xiao Min looked at each other. The people around them were making a fuss over nothing. If it weren't for Lu Chen's many mythical beast battle pets that had merged into the little beast god, and they didn't know where the little beast god was now, the clones' attacks would have caused more abnormal statuses. However, although Lu Chen's clones were difficult to deal with, they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. They couldn't completely block the opponent's attacks. Void Blade. A war soul took the opportunity to attack Lu Chen's original body. Lu Chen didn't move. This made the opponent think that this move would definitely hit. In fact, the Void Blade did hit Lu Chen, but, just when he thought he was about to succeed, Lu Chen's body was suddenly wrapped in a cloud of black fog. He took the hit directly. In the next second, Lu Chen shouted, "I didn't want to use this move, but you have really angered me. Using such a despicable method, are you trying to kill me? Well, I'll plant a space in Zhongxian Gu. Creation space. All of you, come in." The scope of the creation space this time was far beyond the testing or training space. It directly covered the entire Seoul Martial Hall's arena. It was Lu Chen's first time using such a huge creation space. It consumed a lot of energy. No wonder he needed such a long time to accumulate power. The old headmaster of Senki Gakuen widened his eyes. It can't be. The testing space of the Demonic Academy, is it really a nameless realm skill? He can't be from the Fox clan, right? Otherwise, how could he have comprehended the realm skill at such a young age? Oh my god, even if it's the human king, not everyone has their own realm skill. He's a great cultivator, how could he have his own realm skill? I'm starting to understand why Zhongxian Gu suddenly wanted to kill him. This solipsistic, in time, even Zhongxian Gu won't be able to control him. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.